Good evening. I'd like to call to order the May 1st. Can we please have order, please? I'd like to call to order the May 1st, 2025 meeting of the City of Nashua Planning Board. Madam Secretary, can we have a roll call, please?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Mayor Donges, Mike Peterson, Bob Bollinger,
Here.
Adam Varley,
Here.
Maggie Harper, here, Dan Hudson,
Here.
Scott Leclerc, Larry Hirsch,
Here.
Cameron Green,
Here.
Alderman Clee.
All right, we have a quorum. Next item on the agenda, approval of minutes from our April 3rd, 2025 meeting. Has any member of the board had a chance to review those minutes and is willing to make a motion regarding their acceptance or approval? Mr. Green?
I'd like to make a motion to accept the minutes as written.
All right, we have a motion by Mr. Green. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Hirsch. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Recusals? All right, motion passes. Next item on the agenda, communications. Lean on staff for this one. Is there anything that came in since we received our packets?
We did receive, I believe, one letter in opposition to the Roby Park Disc Golf Course. That has been forwarded to you.
All right, very good. Thank you, Sam. Next item on the agenda, report of chair, committee, and liaison. Ms. Harper, you have anything for us tonight?
Yes, Mr. Chair. I attended the Historic District Commission meeting earlier this week on Monday. There were two cases, one for 13 Manchester Street and one for 43-45 Orange Street, to perform repairs to the buildings, and both cases were approved by the commission.
Very good, thank you. The only other thing I'll add, there were a couple presentations about 2 weeks ago. I think one was on a Thursday, one was on a Saturday for the redevelopment of the Elm Street Middle School property. Very informative. The sessions were recorded. If you're at all interested, please check them out. But very, very good, very thorough presentations from both potential proponents. So I think with that, we'll just keep moving along in the agenda. But before I do, I would like to read the planning board procedure. The procedure of the meeting is as follows. After the legal notice of each conditional, special use permit, site plan, or subdivision plan is read by the chair, the board will determine if that application is complete and ready for the board to take jurisdiction. The public hearing will begin, at which time the applicant or representative will be given time to present an overview and description of their project. The applicant shall speak to whether or not they agree with recommended staff stipulations. The board will then have an opportunity to ask questions of the applicant or staff. The chair will then ask for testimony from the audience. First, anyone wishing to speak in opposition or with concern to the plan may speak. Please come forward to the microphone, state your name and address for the record. This would be the time to ask questions that you may have regarding the plan. Next, public testimony will come from anyone wishing to speak in favor of the plan. The applicant will then be allowed a rebuttal period, at which time they shall speak to any issues or concerns raised by the prior public testimony. After this is completed, the public hearing will end and the board will resume the public meeting, at which time the board will deliberate and vote on the application before us. The board asks that both sides keep their remarks to the subject at hand and not repeat what has already been said. Above all, the board wants to be fair to everyone and make the best possible decision based on the testimony presented and all applicable approval criteria established in the Nashua Revised Ordinances. Thank you for your interest and courteous attention. I would ask that you please turn off your cell phones or at least put them on silent mode. A couple of other administrative notes I do want to point out. The board, at its discretion, can cut off public testimony at 10 o'clock. Depending how the rest of the applications on the agenda unfold this evening, there is always the possibility that some items on the agenda may not be heard in their entirety this evening. Secondly, when it does come to public testimony, we're going to try to keep that organized and on point and really not duplicate matters which have already been stated. If individuals have written letters or emails either in support or against a particular application, they're already part of the record. The board has received them, read them. They're part of the official record already. You do not need to reread a letter which you have already written. With that being said, I would like to start moving on to our caseload. Under old business site plan, This case was continued to May 15th. If anyone is here for the East Otterson case, that will not be heard tonight. That has been tabled to the May 15th hearing. Next item on the agenda, under new business conditional use permit. There's actually an associated case with this. Under new business subdivision plan, properties located at 15 New Street. It would be case number 825-0043 for the conditional use permit, and case number 825-0042 for the subdivision plan.
Mr. Chair, just a point of order, just a quick
Oh,
question.
you are correct.
We're going to hear the.
I am mistaken. We were going to skip ahead in the agenda. Apologize for that. We were actually going to start off this evening with other business. Item number 2, referral from the Board of Aldermen regarding R-25-140 relative to tax-deeded property auction. Did anyone from staff care to make a brief statement on that?
Certainly, thank you, Mr. Chair. So before you is a referral from the Board of Aldermen regarding a number of properties that have been taken by the city due to non-payment of back taxes. This is a standard procedure that is enshrined in the NROs of the City of Nashua. And in accordance with all applicable state statute and Nashua ordinances, notice and procedure has occurred. The city now owns these properties and would like to proceed to auctioning these properties. State statute and city procedure requires that the planning board make a recommendation on this list of properties to proceed to auction. The Committee on Infrastructure would then hold the public hearing regarding this list of properties, and that is slated for May 7th.
All right. Thank you, Sam. Any questions from staff? Mr. Varley, please.
Just a quick question, Sam, just to confirm, as to the sort of status of the properties as you described it in terms of the notice and process that's already taken place, that's the same for all the properties on this list, is that correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you, Adam. Other questions from the board? Seeing none, is any member of the board willing to make a recommendation? This would be either favorable or unfavorable recommendation regarding R-25-140. Mr. Varley?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. As to ordinance R-25-140, I would make a motion that we provide a favorable recommendation.
Thank you, Mr. Varley. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Hirsch. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. All right, thank you. All right, moving back to our other caseload. Again, we have an item under new business conditional use permit, case 825-0043, property located at 15 New Street. Same property, there's also under new business subdivision plan at 15 New Street, case 825-0042. At the board's pleasure, we could hear both of these at the same time. Would any member of the board be willing to make a recommendation regarding the board accepting jurisdiction over new business subdivision plan and conditional use permit? Mr. Varley?
Mr. Chairman, as to case A25-0043, conditional use permit, and A25-0042 subdivision plan, I would make a motion that both applications are complete and ready for the board to accept jurisdiction, and that we hear the cases together.
Great. Thank you. Motion by Mr. Varley. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Green. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. We have jurisdiction. Go right ahead. Just introduce yourself for the record, please.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the record, my name is Ethan Beals. I'm a project manager at Hayner Swanson, doing business at 3 Congress Street here in Nashua, New Hampshire. Here tonight representing Bob McIntosh of Ram Development. Also with me tonight is the project attorney, Attorney Andy Perlman. As just read into the record, we're seeking 2 actions by the planning board tonight. a subdivision approval, and a conditional use permit. With the chair's permission, I'd present the facts of both of the cases together, and then would be happy to answer any questions that the board may have. The existing site is located at 15 New Street and is known to the City of Nashua Assessor's Office as map 28, lot 15. Scott, if you don't mind bringing up the subdivision plan instead of the master site plan for now. It is known to the City of Nashua Assessor's Office as map 28, lot 15, and is located in the RB B Urban Residence Zoning District. Site measures 0.69 acres in size and is abutted by single-family dwellings to the south and southwest, two-family dwellings to the southeast, a large building owned and operated by the nonprofit Southern New Hampshire Services to the northeast, and the Marshall Street Apartments, a high-density multifamily residential development to the northwest. The subject site is currently developed and contains an existing single-family home, a pool, a detached garage, and 2 sheds. Topography on the site is generally mild, with a large low point in the grassed backyard. Access to the site is provided via 2 driveway curb cuts out onto New Street, and the existing dwelling is serviced by city sewer, water by Pennachuck Waterworks, gas, and overhead electric and telecommunication lines. It is proposed to subdivide the existing lot into 2 lots. The existing house and pool will remain on lot 15 and will retain the 15 New Street address. Once subdivided, this lot will measure approximately 0.261 acres in size, and the newly created lot 21 will measure 0.429 acres in size and will be addressed as 19 New Street. The existing detached garage, shed, and driveway on the new lot 21 will be demolished to make room for a new development. After subdivision, both of the lots will be legal RB conforming lots. We are seeking one waiver from the subdivision regulation, and that was detailed in a letter to the board. I'll briefly summarize that request and ask that the letter be incorporated into the record by reference. The waiver is of 190-282B9, which requires existing conditions be provided within 1,000 feet of the subdivision. The justification being that surveying within 1,000 feet of the project is not really practical, it doesn't add valuable information to the plan, and would be cost prohibitive for a project of this size. Scott, if you don't mind now switching back to the master site plan. Well, a site plan was submitted, a 3-unit building is allowed in the RB zone by conditional use permit, and a formal site plan action is not required here tonight. It is proposed to construct a new 3-unit multifamily residential building on the new lot 21, along with associated site improvements. The building will be a 3-story townhouse-style building. Elevations were submitted in your packet, but it is similar to several of the townhouse developments that are currently being constructed in the city. The first floor will consist of a garage, building entrance, and utility and storage space. The second floor will contain a kitchen and a living room, and the third floor will contain 3 bedrooms. A deck will be constructed off the back of each unit connecting to the second floor kitchen, and each unit will have approximately a 24-foot by 32-foot footprint. The building will be fully sprinkled. Access to the site will be provided via a new driveway off of New Street. Other site improvements as part of this project include landscaping, site lighting, utility services, and a stormwater management practice. Once constructed, the new building will be serviced by public sewer, water by Pennachuck Waterworks, gas, and underground electric and telecommunication utilities. A traffic memorandum was prepared by Steve Perna, professional engineer. It concluded that the proposed development will generate approximately 1 vehicle trip in the AM peak hour and 2 vehicle trips in the PM peak hour. Given the minimal additional amount of trips generated by this proposed development, an additional traffic study was not warranted. In the board's packet tonight was a letter detailing the 9 criteria required for a conditional use permit. While I'm happy to go through each criteria individually, out of respect for the agenda tonight, perhaps I can just summarize and hit some of those high-level points. The use is permitted in the RB zone, and the building will conform to all applicable setbacks. The project exists in a transitionary area of the city. Abutting the project is a mix of single-family, 2-family, a commercial use, and a high-density residential use. As such, a 3-unit building is compatible with the neighborhood. A letter was also submitted to the board from a licensed real estate salesperson who reviewed the proposed development and wrote an opinion that the 3 units will not impact the neighboring property values. As mentioned earlier, a traffic report concluded that the proposed project will have a measurable but minimal impact to the surrounding roadways. And finally, adequate utilities exist in the vicinity of the proposed project. We are seeking also 1 waiver for the CUP. As I did earlier, I'll briefly summarize that request and ask that that letter also be incorporated into the record by reference. And the waiver is of 190-198, which requires a maximum number of 6 parking spaces on the site, or 1.9 space per unit times 3 units for a multifamily development. The plan proposes a total of 9 parking spaces, 1 garage and 1 driveway space per unit, plus an additional 3, we'll call them visitor parking spaces. In our opinion, for a development this size, 9 parking spaces is appropriate to help accommodate any visitors to the site and prevent any on-street parking. In summary, we believe our subdivision plan and conditional use permit conform to the City of Nashua Land Use Code. We've reviewed the staff report and are in agreement with staff's recommended conditions of approval. And at this point, I'd be happy to answer any questions that the board may have.
Thank you. Questions from the board? Okay, seeing none at this time, thank you. I would like to open this up to the public. Is there anyone here this evening that would like to speak in opposition or concern with this application? Okay, seeing none. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak in favor of this application?
What if we just have a question of what was just said?
I would say, I would classify that opposition or concern, but it's okay. You're more than welcome to take the podium if you'd like and ask. You would have to come up, just for the record, so it's recorded, and you can direct your question to the board, but it would be incumbent upon the applicant to actually respond.
My name is Melissa, and my address is 10 New Street. Just had a question pertaining to the amount of vehicles that would be traveling up and down the street. I thought I heard 1 in the morning, 2 in the evening. I just wondered how that came about. I don't know if I heard that correctly or not.
The applicant can certainly respond to the traffic documentation that was provided, so he'll be given that opportunity. So he will address that.
Okay.
And then I guess, did you have any other questions or comments on the testimony?
I think that's it for now.
That was it? Okay. All right. So I guess we're still in the public hearing. So is there anyone else in the audience that would like to speak on this application? Okay, seeing none. Mr. Beals, would you like to come up and address the comment related to traffic? Thank you.
Sure. As I had mentioned earlier, a traffic memorandum was prepared by professional engineer Steve Pernaugh. As the board knows, traffic is typically measured in AM peak hours and PM peak hours. The numbers I had stated earlier in my presentation reflect the values of the additional traffic generated by the proposed development in the peak hour, and the peak hour is the hour essentially that the roadway is the busiest, the nearby roadway network is the busiest during the morning and during the afternoon. The numbers stated earlier don't reflect the total volume of traffic coming from the site throughout the day, but rather traffic is typically measured in the AM and PM peak hours.
Thank you for the clarification. I would kindly request that we silence any devices that we have, please. Thank you. Other questions from the board at this time?
Just, Mr. Chair,
Yes.
more of a comment, I guess. So the street's a dead-end street, so just in terms of maintenance for snow and that sort of thing, I imagine it must be challenging for Public Works vehicles. You know, they got to push snow somewhere, and they got to be able to turn around at the end of the street. So I just, I know we're not undertaking a full site plan review tonight, but I would just seek to address that later, I guess, with at a driveway permit stage or something like that with the applicant. So I just want to note it as a potential concern that needs to be addressed at some point in the future.
Mr. Hudson, do you think that's worthy of potentially adding as a condition, applicant to work with staff regarding?
I would, yeah, with Public Works, yeah, I would welcome a condition like that. Just, I haven't dreamed up an answer. I don't know what currently occurs if people turn around the driveways. They turn around the driveways now, or how it works exactly. But I do see that as an issue on this dead end with no cul-de-sac or turnaround, which is not probably unique in the city, but definitely makes things difficult for Public Works operations.
Do you happen to know how they're handling it now as an existing public way, or?
I do not, no, I do not.
It seems like there's opportunity for
So
discussion.
there may be no way to do anything with it, I don't know, I just, you know, maybe it's as simple as a permission to be able to turn around in the driveway that's gonna be created. I don't know the answer to that, but I would just welcome a further discussion, so, you know, we won't hold them hostage, so to speak, you know, on whatever the end result is, but I would appreciate an opportunity to have that direct discussion later with the applicant.
Thank you. Mr. Beals, I would imagine you're open to having a discussion with
Happy to have this.
Public Works. Okay.
Thank you.
Very good, thank you. All right, thank you, Mr. Hudson.
Thank you.
Other questions from the board at this time? All right, seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing. We'll go into our deliberation. This one seems, I hate to use the term, but kind of straightforward, other than the snow removal potential, but it seems like there's at least a conversation to be had on that. So I wouldn't certainly want to see something like that, you know, halt this. But obviously, I'd love to hear back from the board to see if there's any other issues or concerns that you may have.
I just have a question for staff. if once-
Please.
Just in terms of the order of taking of motions, I just want to clarify, are you envisioning that we would take up the one waiver for the subdivision and then the subdivision approval, then the one waiver related to the conditional use permit and the conditional use permit approval? Is that what you had in mind? Or I just wasn't sure if we should take those waiver requests separately, given that the two are sort of dependent on one another.
So I believe the conditional use is the first item at hand, so that'd be a waiver to the conditional use criteria, and then a determination on conditional use approval, and then subsequently the subdivision waiver and the subdivision approval. Good
Okay,
question.
so it's the subdivision approval has to be granted first, not the conditional use permit?
Conditional use first.
Or, I'm sorry, conditional use.
Subdivision first? Subdivision first.
Subdivision first, okay.
We're all learning.
All right, got it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right. All right, now that we have our Ps and Qs in order, would any member of the board be willing to make a recommendation or make a motion regarding the CUP application?
The subdivision.
Oh, the subdivision, geez, now I screwed it up, too. All right. Pardon me, subdivision.
Mr. Chair, so I would first make a motion as to the one waiver request relating to the subdivision plan. So specifically, that is a waiver request from section 190-282B9 with respect to showing existing conditions within 1,000 feet. And that motion would be to grant that waiver request based on a finding that strict conformity would pose an unnecessary hardship, and that the specific circumstances of the application indicate that granting the waiver will still allow for carrying out the spirit and intent of the regulation.
All right, thank you. Motion by Mr. Varley with respect to granting the waiver for the subdivision plan. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Hirsch. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Mr. Varley, would you like to continue?
Yes, and just a quick question for Mr. Hudson. Does it matter from your perspective that additional condition relating to the snow plowing? Do you view that more appropriately as a condition to the subdivision plan or the conditional use permit?
I was trying to decide that in my own head too. I think maybe the subdivision, because regardless of what use was done on that lot, we'd want to have that same discussion maybe. Even if it was a single-family lot. So I think it's more appropriate for the subdivision, but I yield to staff if that's not appropriate.
Okay, makes sense to me.
I would agree.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, with that clarification, I would then make a motion to grant final subdivision approval with respect to, sorry, I'm just, case number here. case A25-0042, with a finding that the application does meet the requirements outlined in subdivision NRO section 190-138G, with subsequent conditions as follows. A through E is written in the staff report, and then a newly added subsequent condition indicating that the applicant shall work with staff from the Department of Public Works to develop a plan for snow removal on the site.
Thank you. Motion by Mr. Varley. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Hirsch. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. I guess next would be.
Yeah, now, so the waiver.
Making a motion on the waiver
Yeah.
for the CUP, okay.
Okay, so I would next make a motion to approve the waiver request with respect to the conditional use permit, specifically a request for a waiver from section 198-190 to allow 9 parking spaces where otherwise a maximum of 6 would be permitted. And again, with the finding that strict conformity would pose an unnecessary hardship, and that the specific circumstances or conditions of the site indicate that granting the waiver will allow for properly carrying out the spirit and intent of the regulations.
Thank you. Motion by Mr. Varley. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Green. Further discussion? Actually, just had one from staff. The land use matrix table is in section 198, 190, but is the waiver actually being sought from 190, 271I?
The waiver is to 190-282, I'm sorry, 190-271I to, and that language reads, if I can just find it. That language reads, individual parking and loading spaces to be noted, required, and provided. And so, since they were providing more than what's allowed, we reference the other section in the code specific to parking matrix.
Okay, no, and I appreciate that, but just as a matter of citation in the motion, it is the waiver from section 190-271, or so that would be okay, understood. Thank you. Mr. Varley, would you mind restating that motion, just?
Sure, I think I can just clarify that the waiver itself is from 190-271I in terms of establishing the maximum parking standard.
Okay. Excellent, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Mr. Green, would you move on this?
I'll
All
second
right,
that.
seconded by Mr. Green. All right, further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Thank you. All right.
All right, and then take the
Yes.
last,
Yep.
to approve the,
Yes.
So, final motion on this set of applications. So as to case number A25-0043, conditional use permit, I would make a motion to approve that application, finding that it meets the requirements outlined in section 190-133, and with subsequent conditions as listed A through I in the staff report.
Thank you. Motion by Mr. Varley to grant conditional use permit approval. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Green. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Moving along, under new business subdivision plan, properties located 338, 340, 350 Amherst Street, and 16 Airport Road.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to read.
But prior to reading it, okay, thank you, Larry. For the record, Mr. Hirsch is recusing himself in the next two cases. There's an associated site plan with same property. Subdivision plan is case A25-0046, and the site plan is case number A25-0044. At the board's discretion, we could potentially take both of these at the same time. And if any member of the board is willing to make a motion regarding completeness and acceptance over those two cases, feel free to go for it. Ms.
Mr.
Harper,
Chair?
please.
Yes, in regards to new business subdivision plans, case A25-0046, and new business site plans, case A25-0044, I'd like to make a motion to take jurisdiction.
All right, thank you. Motion by Ms. Harper. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Varley. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, Mr. Petropoulos, go right ahead.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Jim Petropoulos. I'm a professional engineer with Hayner Swanson, 3 Congress Street, Nashua, New Hampshire, tonight representing the Law Family Companies. Brian Law is the president, and Brian joins us this evening. As just read into the record, we have 2 cases. With the chair's permission, I'll talk about the lot line relocation plan first, and then move into the site plan. We're here tonight discussing properties at 338, 340, 350 Emmer Street, and 16 Airport Road. 3 of the 4 properties have frontage on Amherst Street and are in the GB General Business Zone. The other lot is along Airport Road and is in the Park Industrial Zone. Currently, these buildings, each lot houses a building. Lot 98 includes the former Global building. That will be the subject of our redevelopment application this evening. Next to it, lot 97 is the former Leda Lanes building. Lot 479 is the recently constructed retail restaurant development. And as I mentioned, the Airport Road parcel as well. These are very visible sites. I'm sure everybody has been by them to see them. They're fully developed, fairly flat sites, fully utilized. We do have Coleraine Brook behind 2 of the 4 lots that flows in an easterly direction. The lot line relocation plan is up on the screen right now, and it's a simple plan that looks to just move lot lines slightly between these buildings to ensure conformance with side yard setbacks, not only for this particular action on lot 98, but also for a future site plan that will be coming forward on lot 97 later this summer. These lot line changes will make each of the 4 lots conforming, of course. Law Realty Company, Law Family Company will own these lots. And as part of a staff comment, they've asked to put a document on record essentially saying that if they were to sell one of the parcels, that the cross-access and parking and utility easements would be perfected, and we are fine with that. There are no impacts with the lot line plan to any public street. We have requested one waiver, Mr. Chairman, the famous section 190-281, survey within adjacent parcels within 1,000 feet, and similar to the case before you, we seek that relief. With regard to the site plan, the site plan that we've submitted focuses on the newly created lot 98, the former Global building. And there are 2 purposes for why we're here this evening. First, it's being proposed to change the use from a 12,500 square foot 1-story building from indoor recreation to a medical services building, which is an allowed use in the GB zone. And then the second is to show minor site improvements to complement this new use. The medical services will go into the building. This is not a tear down, this is not a new construction, this is a redevelopment of that building. The medical use is intended to be a freestanding emergency room. It will provide the same type care as a hospital emergency room. And this use is slightly different than urgent care facilities that you might be familiar with. They contain advanced equipment and they contain a higher level of care. Urgent care, you may have a cold or a flu or an ankle sprain, you would go there. This type use is servicing cardiac arrest, stroke, broken bones, or trauma. It is a 24/7 facility. Over the course of the day, they would have 30 staff members. And on a typical day, they see approximately 30 patients. The average length of visit is between 90 and 120 minutes, and there's no overnight stay at this facility. So that's the change of use piece of this. Second piece are the site improvements that go along with it, and you can make those out on the site plan. We're maintaining our right turn in, right turn out curb cut on Amherst Street. We are planning for future driveway connections to the west through the Leda Lane site and through the recently constructed Law Retail site to create that interconnectivity between these three Amherst Street lots. And what that does is allow patients or visitors or staff looking to head west on Amherst Street, because Amherst Street's a divided way, to work through the Law sites to Airport Road, take a right, get to Amherst Street at the signal, and head west. The parking lot will be reconstructed. 31 spaces are required by code. We're proposing 46. Behind the building is a covered ambulance access to the building. There's also a dumpster and a generator pad in the back of the site as well. Utilities will remain. There'll be new signage, new lighting, new landscaping. With regard to stormwater, currently this site just sheet drains right into Coleraine Brook in the back. In redevelopment sites, we're looking to improve the condition. We do have more open space than the current condition, so that will help quantity-wise. Quality-wise, we didn't have a lot of options. We've got high groundwater out there. We've got some unsuitable soils. We're proposing a mechanical device that will seek to remove a lot of the particulate that comes off of parking lots such as this. Traffic, Mr. Chairman, your favorite subject, is a traffic report was submitted as part of our application. They're very low numbers. 27 trips in the AM peak, 30 trips in the PM peak, about 450 trips overall. And they're replacing, again, indoor recreational facility. So a full traffic study was not warranted. Building elevations, Connor, if you could call up, there's a couple graphics on the buildings. Really just an enhancement of the building that exists out there right now, new doors, new windows, new canopies, screening of the HVAC units on top of the building. It's viewed as a pretty good improvement architecturally over what's there today. The site plan contains two waiver items. The first is survey 190-279, survey within 1,000 feet that you're familiar with. The second is certain architectural standards, dimensional standards, building materials. As an example, Mr. Chairman, the code requires a customer entrance off a public street. The entrance to the building is inward. It's facing towards the Leda Lane site. We're looking to maintain that. So we have an architectural waiver letter as well. With permission this evening, work is expected to start this fall of 2025 with an opening in 2026. We believe our applications conform to the National Land Use Code. The conditions of approval, as outlined in the staff report, are acceptable to our client, and we respectfully seek your approval this evening. And I'm happy to answer questions.
Thank you. Questions from the board? Mr. Varley, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm curious, given the nature of the use, where it's going to be a healthcare facility, is the proposed tenant already in the process of seeking licensure for the facility?
Yes.
And is there, I'm assuming you've got some process by which the development is conditioned upon them receiving that approval, or how are you anticipating that would
Yes.
work?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
There's certain state, for everybody else, there's certain state approvals associated with a facility such as this, and they're going through that process now.
Other questions from the board?
I just
Ms.
have one
Harper,
quick
yeah.
question. You had mentioned that, predominantly the cases that would be coming in could be like, heart attack or what have you. So at this facility, they would be doing the initial treatment and then moving them to the hospital
Yes.
at that point? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Other questions from the board at this time? Okay, seeing none, thank you.
Thank you.
We'll open this up to the public. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak in opposition or with concern to this application? Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak in favor of this application? Seeing none, I'll toss it back to the board one more time. Any further questions from the board? All right. At this time, I will close the public hearing. We'll go into our deliberation. My general thoughts will be on the waivers at least. We do see the 1,000-foot come up a lot. The architectural, I'm a little less concerned with if it helps them sort of salvage, kind of the core of the building there. I wouldn't want to force them to swing the door. And if it's front-facing to Amherst Street, that's not necessarily appealing for folks that may seek care there. My short 2 cents for now, but obviously, I'd love to hear from the board if you have any other thoughts or comments on this. All right. Seeing none? The fun stuff. So I think similar to the last case, we would want to take up the lot line adjustment first. So that would be case 825-0046. And firstly, we would need to address the waiver related to the 1,000-foot property line ex-con. Is any member of the board willing to make a motion regarding the waiver request on the subdivision plan? Mr. Barley?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion to grant the waiver request with respect to the lot line application A25-0046. That request being for a waiver from 190-282B9 relating to showing existing conditions within 1,000 feet, and that motion to approve would be with a finding that strict conformity would pose an unnecessary hardship, and that the specific circumstances or conditions of the site indicate that the granting of the waiver will allow for properly carrying out the spirit and intent of the regulations.
Thank you. Motion by Mr. Barley. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Green. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Would you like to continue, Mr. Barley?
Sure. So I'd now like to make a motion to grant final approval as to case A25-0046, again, the lot line adjustment. And that would be with the finding that the plan does meet the criteria outlined in subdivision NRO section 19-138G, subject to the following subsequent conditions that are listed in the staff report A through E.
Thank you. Motion by Mr. Barley. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Green. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. So next would be taking up the site plan application, case 825-0044. And we would need to address two waiver requests first. Any member of the board willing to make a motion regarding the waiver requests for case 825-044? Mr. Varley, please.
I might as well keep going along here. Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I would make a motion as to A25-0044 with respect to the two requested waivers to make a motion to approve both, and those are specifically a waiver request from section 190-279EE, again, relating to showing existing conditions on adjacent parcels, and second, from section 190-172 to waive certain architectural standards for non-residential buildings, including requirement to have customary entrances on all sides. And as to both of those waiver requests, the motion we made with the finding that strict conformity would pose an unnecessary hardship, and that the specific circumstances or conditions of the site indicate that granting the waivers will still allow for properly carrying out the spirit and intent of the regulations.
All right, thank you, Mr. Varley. Motion by Mr. Varley, is there a second? Second by Mr. Hudson. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
I'll-
Do you want
I'll
the
close it out,
clock
Mr.
to
Chair.
finish it? Okay,
Yeah.
sure.
So, again, as to new business 825-0044 site plan, I would like to make a motion to grant final approval. And that final approval would be with the subsequent conditions listed A through M in the staff report.
Mr. Hudson, actually,
Should I second it before we discuss it? Or?
I was just going to say motion by Mr. Varley, but yeah, I think you should second it.
I'll second it. And
Second
can I
by
speak
Mr.
to my second?
Second by Mr. Hudson. Any further discussion?
Yes.
Mr. Hudson, please.
Yes, please, Mr. Chair. Condition E can be struck because the traffic-related comment that Wayne Husband had was incorporated in item B, condition B, so that E can go away and renumbered accordingly.
Okay. Mr. Chair, I will amend my motion with that clarification, still being an approval with subsequent conditions, but removing original condition E and relettering accordingly.
I'll re-second that motion, Mr. Chair.
All right, motion by Mr. Varley, second by Mr. Hudson. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you very much.
Okay, moving along. Just so folks, if anyone was here for 55A Middle Dunstable Road, that case has been postponed and will not be heard this evening. Next case, under new business site plan, case number 825-0031, properties located at 4, 6, and 8 Dumaine Avenue. Has any member of the board reviewed that application, is willing to make a motion regarding completeness and board acceptance of the project?
Mr. Chair?
Ms. Harper, please.
I'd like to make a motion to take jurisdiction of case, new business site plans, case A25-0031.
All right, thank you, Ms. Harper. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Hirsch. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
And also just note for the record, Mr. Hirsch has rejoined us for this case. The floor is yours. Just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what's going on over on Dumaine.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Dan Borowski. I'm with Fieldstone Land Consultants. I'm here tonight on behalf of GMAC Properties, seeking site plan approval, or an amended site plan approval for 4, 6, and 8 Dumaine development. This site plan was approved in 2022, and we're seeking a small amendment here. The changes are really a decreased front setback on the western units, G through M, I'm sorry, small font, and a decreased rear setback for the, it's the units in the PIMU district on the western of the lot. The front setback would be reduced from 30 feet to about 18 feet, and the rear setback would be reduced from 20 feet to about 10 feet. We had originally submitted a variance for this request, but then staff directed us that since we're requesting this in the PIMU district, that this board is really the proper avenue to seek this relief, because you have the ability to vary the dimensional requirements for this district. So along with this change, this change came about with about 4,000 extra square feet of impervious area. So we've extended the trench in the rear of the property for stormwater drainage accordingly, and we've submitted a stormwater letter to that effect. We've also added some plantings for the front and rear of the lot as well. And in addition to those changes, we've also removed the decks off the front of the lots to kind of decrease the impact that we're having on the setback. But overall, we think that this will make for a much more uniform-looking building and a much more marketable site. So I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Just a couple of quick ones, if I may. So the number of units that were originally proposed is not changing?
Exactly the same. We had originally proposed units. So this was the approved site plan from 2022, and you can see that there are much smaller units on the western side of the lot. So the main complaint that the development across the street has gotten is that the living rooms are pretty small. So we'd like to just mirror or use the same exact building footprint on the east side of the lot as the west side of the lot.
Thank you for that clarification. And I guess my one follow-up would be, despite the increase in impervious, it doesn't look like you're seeking any waivers. So dimensionally, this is still all within,
Yep.
within ordinance?
It is, we still meet the impervious for each zone. And stormwater, the increase to stormwater was handled with just a slight increase in the proposed measures that were already proposed.
Okay, thank you. Questions from other members of the board? Mr. Hudson, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You may have mentioned it, but you're removing all the decks too, is that true?
Yeah, we removed them.
Okay.
Correct.
And I would just note that this latest plan, I think engineering received on Monday, so we haven't had a chance to fully review it. We received the one plan, not a full set. So, you know, the notation about we've extended the, you know, stone trench and this, that, and the other thing. There's some final details that we need to work through. We did not issue a letter, and there is a condition in the report. I would just ask that we be provided an opportunity to further consult with the applicant, just to confirm that everything's been addressed. It seems to make sense. It doesn't seem like a whole lot of additional impervious, so I concur that probably they have adequately addressed it, but we just want to see those details before we sign off, so.
I appreciate that. And Mr. Hudson, do you think that should be
Yeah,
explicitly as a condition?
Yeah, condition C is referencing an anticipated email from Wayne Husband, and we haven't issued one, so I would just revise that to be something like, you know, final plans to be addressed.
Okay, so C.
I mean, previous comments to be addressed to satisfaction, I guess.
So potentially C.
I think there was an outstanding comment from the previous
Right.
approval, which hasn't been fully addressed. Maybe, well, actually, they're changing things, so anyway, we got to address. We need to go through and dot the i's, cross the t's, so some condition to that effect.
We could wordsmith condition C a little bit, I think, in a way that would satisfy Public Works.
Yeah, I appreciate that, thank you.
Other questions from the board? Ms. Harper, please.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just curious, are there any other major changes to the exterior of the building besides removing the decks that we should be aware of?
Nope, just making the smaller units larger and removing the decks. And we added some landscaping in front of the buildings.
So that would be different than the previous plan? or-
Correct. And so where the decks were, we had
Okay.
revised and added some more shrubs to increase the screening.
Understood, thank you.
I guess as a follow-up to that, when a full plan set is completed, will revised architecturals be part of that plan set, or?
Yes, they can be, because we've already submitted the architecturals, I believe, for the eastern half, and we're proposing the same, the same building.
Yeah, I would just kindly request the next submittal to the city is just.
A complete plan set?
Full plan set,
Okay.
yes.
Yes, sir.
That would be helpful for everybody, so. Other questions from the board? All right, seeing none at this time, thank you for your testimony. I'm going to open it up to the public. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak in opposition or with concern to this application? Seeing none, is there anyone that would like to speak in favor of this application? Seeing none, go back to the board one more time. All right. At this point, I'm going to close the public hearing. We'll go into our deliberation. I think overall, to me, these seems like fairly minor changes. That said, I don't want to deny Dan and his staff a full bite at the apple. So I think, Dan, thank you for pointing that out, that you haven't had a chance yet to review full plans. So, but just based on the prior history with this application, I would hope that there's nothing too severe that can't be worked through. But obviously, I'd like to hear from other members of the board if you have any additional thoughts on this one. Mr. Barley, please.
No specific thoughts, just a question for staff. In terms of the dimensional modification, I just want to clarify that this is, the standard here is not the waiver standard, but it's just, we're determining that the modification is consistent with the site suitability standards, is that right?
Yeah, the site suitability, you're going into two different setbacks, and you're enlarging the building a bit, so
Right.
that will fit under that category.
Right, thank you.
Thank you. Other questions or comments? Seeing none, would any member of the board, I guess we're looking for two separate motions here. One would be to grant, the first would be to grant the dimensional modifications approval. Any member of the board feel comfortable making a motion regarding the dimensional modification approval? Mr. Barley?
Yes, Mr. Chair. So as to new business A25-0031 site plan amendment, I would first make a motion to grant the requested dimensional modification, in particular in reliance on the applicant's site plan suitability report dated April 25th, 2025, and finding that granting this modification will be consistent with the site suitability standards under section 190-23F.
Thank you. Motion by Mr. Barley. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Hirsch. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Mr. Barley, I hate to do it to you, but would you care to continue?
Yeah, I'm on a roll here.
All right.
Yeah, so as to new business A25-0031 site plan amendment, I would like to make a motion now to grant final approval for the amendment. And that motion was with the finding that the application does meet the requirements outlined in section 190-146D, subject to several subsequent conditions. And I would like to reference conditions A through F in the staff report, but with the following modification to condition letter C. So removing the current condition and replacing it with all outstanding comments from the city engineering department to be addressed to the satisfaction of the Division of Public Works. And that will, again, replace the existing language for item C.
Okay, thank you. Motion by Mr. Varley. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Hudson. Any further discussion? Mr. Hudson, please.
Yes, Mr. Chair. I would just suggest maybe we modify that revised condition to be that they submit a complete set of revised plans, and that any subsequent comments by engineering be addressed to the satisfaction of Division of Public Works. So essentially the same thing, but just denoting the fact that they need to submit a complete set of plans, which will be helpful for us to be able to provide that review.
Absolutely. So I will
Go right ahead.
amend my motion consistent with what was already made, but with a slight modification to my newly added condition C to indicate that the applicant shall first submit a complete plan set, and then any comments resulting from the submission of that plan set by the engineering department shall be addressed by the applicant to the satisfaction of the Division of Public Works.
Mr. Varley has modified his motion. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Hudson. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Understood. Thank you.
I'll just mention that.
Certainly.
Announce it.
Moving along, before we take our next case, under new business site plan, Mr. Varley is going to recuse.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda, case number A25-0066. It's got a very long description. Sam, you just want to call it the Mohawk site? All right, the Mohawk site. Has any member of the board reviewed this application and is willing to make a motion regarding completeness acceptance? Mr. Green, go right ahead, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. New business, project A25-0066 I've determined that it is complete, and we are ready to take jurisdiction and open the public hearing.
All right, thank you. Motion by Mr. Green. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Hirsch. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, motion passes. Mr. Westgate, go right ahead. The floor is yours.
Good evening, Mr. Chair and Madam, and members of the board. My name is Brad Westgate. I'm a lawyer with Weiner Bennett, 402 Amherst Street in Nashua, representing Blaylock Holdings LLC, which is the applicant for approvals on the Mohawk Tannery redevelopment. Tom Zajac, who's the project engineer with Hannah Swanson, apologizes for not being here tonight, but he's happily represented by Jim Petropoulos. I regret to note his senior. What's before you tonight is actually a relatively simple request, Mr. Chair. The this board on June 20, 2024, granted 4 approvals for the Mohawk Tannery redevelopment, 3 subdivision approvals and 1 site plan approval. What we're here seeking tonight, as Mr. Zajac outlined in his letter that appended our application, is an extension for 36 months of the 12-month approval timeframe that's set forth in Section 146E1 of the Land Use Code. That section states that if a site plan is approved, a building permit needs to be issued within 12 months of that site plan approval, otherwise the site plan approval is void. It's interesting, the subdivision regulations don't have a similar 12-month requirement. But Section 146E of the Land Use Code also provides that the planning board may extend and approve a longer period when warranted by economic conditions, development phasing, and other unique circumstances. And simply put, we would respectfully request that the Mohawk Tannery redevelopment falls within that provision given these other unique circumstances, which would enable the planning board to extend that 12-month time frame. Just a few more brief thoughts about it, if I may, Mr. Chair. The There are a number of unique circumstances, frankly, a multitude of them involved in this project. Obviously, the site's quite challenging, and redevelopment is fully dependent on remediation of the environmental conditions. The EPA and DES have before it and have been involved with Mohawk and its consultants a substantial analysis of the remediation plan. This has gone on for a significant period of time. It involves literally weekly meetings between Blaylock, the consultants, EPA and DES, and DES's own consultant. Those approvals with EPA and DES are pending. They're literally looking at a 2,400-page package of a remediation plan with narrative plans, backup data, and the like. Also, the Board of Aldermen, of course, has taken a number of steps that are pertaining to this project, and we're working with city staff to finalize some additional Board of Aldermen matters for consideration, adding to these unique circumstances. We're hopeful that the remediation work can actually begin in earnest this summer, but it'll probably take a solid 2 years both to do the work and then enable EPA and DES to inspect, review, and sign off on the work. So that takes us 24 months, if you will, out of this 36-month requested extension. But if all those timeframes hold, then within that last 12 months, which takes us all the way to June of 2028, the building permit issuance could be realistic, as we noted in Mr. Zajac's letter. So we would respectfully request that that timeframe required under 190-146E be extended 36 months so it runs to June 2028, as we've outlined in our request. Happy to answer any questions, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Actually, I may just put one to staff really quickly, just for clarification. Are we modifying the original approval from last year, or is this technically an extension? And does it matter? Is that sort of a moot point?
It is in a way a moot point because the effect is the same. Essentially, you are not granting an extension to the approval, but rather you are modifying the 12-month approval window that is typical by tacking on another 36 months to that, making it a 48-month approval window.
So legally, there's no difference, as the outcome would be the same?
The approach is slightly different, and I would say that the way that the code is written grants this unique approach. And given the unique circumstances associated with the site, this seems to fit better just from a point of law within the city's ordinance.
Okay. I appreciate that. So thank you. That's all I had. Questions from the board? Okay. All right. None at this time. I will put this out to the public. Are there any members of the public here to speak in opposition or with concern for this application? Seeing none. Are there any members of the public here this evening that wish to speak in favor of this application? All right, seeing none. Toss it back to the board one more time. No? I think we're good. Attorney Westgate, thank you. At this point, I'll close the public hearing. We'll go into our deliberation. I think there's some level of appreciation here just for the amount of moving parts with that site. You know, for obvious reasons, I think we wouldn't want to make a habit of this, but if there's one time where I think the longer time period should be considered, it should be for something like this. When you've got other federal agencies involved, and I'm not sure what else is going on with the land swaps and the easements and things like that. I imagine there's a lot of details that your typical application would not have. But obviously, I'd love to hear your thoughts, if you have anything else to add on that. So, Ms. Harper, please.
I would just agree with you, Mr. Chair. I do think that in this case, that this is an appropriate amount of time just because of all the work that does need to be completed on the site.
Thank you, Ms. Harper. Other comments from the board at this time? See none. Would any member of the board be willing to make a motion regarding approval of this application? Mr. Green?
Yeah, I'd like to
Please.
make a motion for new business, project A 25-066, granting final approval for the modification of the 12-month time period as defined in 190-146E1 to be extended by 36 months to a 48-month period, allowing to receive the building permit without need to apply for further approval extensions before 2028. All subsequent conditions placed on the original final approval granted in 2024 are to be incorporated in this new final approval as subsequent conditions.
Thank you. Motion by Mr. Green. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Hudson. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Okay. Motion passes. Thank you. All right. Next item on the agenda, case 825-0034, property located at L. Spitbrook Road. Has any member of the board had an opportunity to review this application and is willing to make a motion regarding its completeness?
Sorry, Mr. Chair, just want to note that I'm back and Mr. Hudson is.
Certainly. Thank you, Mr. Varley. Pull it up here. Sorry about that. Has any member of the board been able to review this application and is willing to make a motion regarding completeness and the board taking jurisdiction over the application? Ms. Harper.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to take jurisdiction of new business site plans, case A25-0034.
All right, motion by Ms. Harper. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Hirsch. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Attorney Crowan, the floor is yours. I kindly request again, just for the board in the hearing room, Mr. Coleman has every opportunity to present, and if he has other experts on his team that wish to present, everyone's going to get a chance. So, Mr. Attorney Coleman, the floor is yours. Please proceed.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, good evening. My name is Andy Perlman, attorney with Prunier and Perlman here in Nashua. I am here tonight presenting on behalf of the city with respect to the Nashua Rotary West Disc Golf Course. We believe that we have a very good project to bring a good amenity to the city that doesn't exist in the city today. We have a number of folks who will be addressing the board. Matt LeBlanc from Public Works is going to speak tonight with words from Director Photo, who couldn't be here tonight, who's not feeling 100%. Mr. Petropoulos, Hannah Swanson, who seems to corner the market on the board tonight. Brendan Quigley is here. Brendan Quigley is our wetland soil scientist, our wetlands expert from GOV Environmental. He's here to answer any questions if the board should have any wetlands-related question. However, the wetland matters have been addressed with the zoning board. Dan Hudson is here as well. I think you folks may know Dan Hudson. Dan, if there are any questions with respect to the traffic report that VHB prepared, Dan can speak to those. I know we have a number of other folks here tonight. We have some friends from Rotary West, Helen Honoro, Janet Valuk, who want to speak, and we have other supporters as well. And Mr. Chairman, if you will indulge me, I do want to come back to speak as a witness because I came on the city's team in January 2024, and I had played one round of disc golf with my family some years ago, but I've since learned a lot about disc golf, how it works, and I do want to come back and speak to the impressions that I've received just learning and walking disc golf courses. If you're not familiar with disc golf, it's similar to regular golf, except it's played with discs. Some call them frisbees, but they're discs. Players have a number of, up to 20 some odd discs in their backpack or a cart that they lug around on the disc golf course. And the discs are the different discs. They're weighted. They're shaped differently for driving, chip shots, putting, like very similar to golf. And similar to golf, I'm terrible at both of these sports.
Mr. Chairman, we know that there's opposition. There's been opposition along the way through Concom, through the zoning board, but we believe we have a good plan that meets code. And again, we can bring a project that a lot of people in the city want to see brought forth and opened up as soon as possible. So with that introductory remark, Mr. Chairman, if I could have Matt LeBlanc from Public Works address the board for a moment.
Certainly.
And I'll come back.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Matt LeBlanc, and I serve as the Operations Manager for the Division of Public Works. I'm going to read a statement from the Director of Public Works, who has been very passionate about this project, but could not be with us tonight due to some illness. Thank you for the opportunity to present our application. Of the many projects that I have led during my tenure with the city, disc golf has by far been the greatest potential to enrich the lives of all our residents. It is free, it can be played at any age range, and allows our residents to experience the beauty of the wooded area in Roby Park. This project started with a petition of over 600 Nashua residents asking the city to build this disc golf course. When these discussions began back in 2020, I had never even heard of disc golf, but came to realize the popularity of the sport with over 71 disc golf courses right here in New Hampshire. Disc golf courses are built in harmony with the surroundings and designated to protect the natural resources. This course was designed by two world champion disc golfers and expert course designers, Avery Jenkins and Simon Lizotte. Mayor Donchis, the Board of Public Works, and Zoning Board unanimously supported this project. I would like to thank Conservation Commission Chair Sherry Dutsey for helping to move this project forward, and the Nashua West Rotary for donating $30,000 to help build this park. In a country that is currently so divided, it has been truly heartwarming to see such a diverse and persistent group of disc golfers unite for the common goal of building a golf park where all residents are welcome. Our team is here to answer your questions and work with you to bring Nashua West Rotary Disc Golf Park to Nashua. And next, I'd like to introduce James Petropoulos. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. For the record, I'm Jim Petropoulos, professional engineer with Hayner Swanson, Inc. And can everybody hear me back there? Is it okay? Okay, thank you. So our company was initially hired to locate survey wet flags on this subject site. And since then, we've been brought in to act as an engineering consultant to provide peer review of the plans, the application, and to assist with the project permitting. What I'd like to do tonight, Mr. Chairman, is give you a quick outline of the presentation. I'm going to give you a brief overview of Roby Park. I'm going to review the project's recent history. I'm going to give you a very quick crash course on disc golf, and then I'm going to talk about the details of the site plan. There's quite a bit of information here. I'll do my best to be both informative and expeditious. When complete, we as a team will be available to answer questions from the board and from the public. Roby Park itself was purchased and developed in the early 1980s and sits at the corner of Spitbrook Road and East Dunstable Road in South Nashua. It's a uniquely shaped lot. You can see it in the yellow outline there that measures about 57 acres, located in the R18 residential zoning district. Abutters to Roby Park to the north is Spitbrook Road, but then across Spitbrook we have the Huntington, we have World Academy, we have the church, and we have a fire station. To the east is Oak Hill and Bay Ridge, two multifamily residential developments. To the south is undeveloped land and single-family lots that reside on Southgate Road, I believe. And then to the west is East Dunstable Road with Sky Meadow on the other side. Roby Park is an active public park. It is not conservation land like a number of other properties in Nashua. For the record, there is no legal deed restriction for conservation upon this property. Now, here in Nashua, Roby Park, as well as other parks, have hours of operation that are 7 a.m. They're open 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. Currently at Roby Park, the park contains 2 softball fields, a children's play lot, a sliding hill during winter, skating rink during winter, walking trails, and 2 parking lots. There's an upper parking lot at the corner up on East Dunstable Road. It contains about 26 parking spaces. And then the main lot that you see along Spitbrook Road measures about 55 parking spaces. Please note that in addition to these 2 lots, there is public street parking along a small section of East Dunstable Road. We know East Dunstable Road is a very serpentine road. We know it's got guardrail, it's got some challenging curves. But up near that East Dunstable Road parking lot, there is parking provided, probably in the 5 to 6 parking spaces. There's also parking on Spitbrook Road, just east of the entrance into the main parking lot. As can be seen on the aerial, the property contains a combination of trees and open cover, open land. The open land is predominantly in the north, the play fields, the rec areas, the parking lots. That makes up about 8 acres of the 57 acres. The rest of it in the central part and in the southern part of Roby Park is currently wooded. And I would say it's a mature forest with a combination of pine trees and hardwoods. Next plan, please, Connor. The property has some varying topographic conditions. It's fairly flat in the playfield areas, but we've got sloping land on the sides, which kind of creates a low valley in the middle. If you've walked the trail, Aaron's Trail, through the property, you walk through the lowlands and you see kind of the uplands off to the side. Overall, there's approximately 100-foot grade change from the low part of the site to the high part of the site. So the site does contain some nice topography. It also contains, as I mentioned, walking trails, stone walls, and rock outcroppings in the back. Wetlands have been flagged in accordance with local, state, and federal jurisdiction. Brendan Quigley joins us tonight. He is probably the most well-respected certified wetland scientist in the state of New Hampshire, and he's been involved in the project. The main wetland complex is a red maple swamp that's really located in the center part of the site. It's fairly broad up near the back end of the softball fields, and then it narrows down into a watercourse that flows south, and then it broadens out again in the southerly part of this property. There's also 2 wetland channels, one from East Dunstable Road and one from about the midpoint of Oak Hill condominiums that flow downhill into this watercourse. Lastly, there's 3 small wetland complexes in the extreme southeast corner of the property. And of course, you know, here in Nashua, these wetlands carry with it a 40-foot buffer. So that's Roby Park. Recent history of the project is outlined by Mr. Perlman briefly. There's been a number of public meetings on this project, but none before this board, except for tonight. So a quick recap. As mentioned, it started with a grassroots movement asking the city to build a golf course on its public lands. DPW evaluated sites and determined Roby Park was the best candidate. Since then, Nashua's put together a team to design and permit this project. Now, because of the wetlands that I just described on the property, there were wetland impacts, wetland buffer impacts as a result of the project. So the process started with the Conservation Commission. After several lengthy meetings and site walks, the process produced a 2-2 vote for input to the Zoning Board of Adjustment. The application then went to the Zoning Board, where they received a unanimous 5-0 vote, and I want to get the words right here, to work in a critical wetland buffer to remove trees, brush, install 9 wooden pedestrian bridges, T-pads, disc chain baskets, directional signage, wetland markers, and trash barrels for a proposed 18-hole disc golf course. That's what they permitted as a special exception, which is an allowed right, meeting certain conditions. This vote by the ZBA addresses the environmental impact of this project. The next step in the process is here tonight before you with requesting site plan approval. I mentioned I'll give you a quick crash course in disc golf, because I've personally never played, but I did brush up on the sport, and this is what I've learned. It's a fast-growing sport throughout the country, family-friendly outdoor activity, played, as Andy said, very much like regular golf. The standard disc golf course is 18 holes. Players start out each hole from a small teeing area, 6 by 12 kind of gravel tee box, and they play by throwing a disc into a chain basket. You add up the number of throws you have at the end, and that's your score. Groups of players range from 1 to 4. Typically, it takes about 2 hours to play the 18 holes, okay, in disc golf. And the players are guided through the course with directional signs for each hole. With regard to the holes, they're laid out for varying skill levels, with safety in mind, minimal work to the land, and much like regular golf, a combination of trees, topography, and wetlands really provide for an interesting course. Thank you, Connor. I just included some basic pictures. I'll quickly go through those. I mentioned the disc golf target or the basket. You can see the chain link basket. Apparently that's the target. You'll see just below it disc golf signage that would be out through the course, identifying the hole in the routing so that people know where they were going. The backpack Andy alluded to. They also have something called a disc retriever, where if you throw it up in a tree or if it goes into a wet area, rather than going into those areas, much like a golf ball retriever, you can extend this device and grab your disc. Next slide, please. A couple more signs. If you find somebody's disc, apparently in this industry, it's unlike golf, where if you find a ball, you put it in your pocket, but if you find a disc, they ask you to put it back. So there's a lost and found bin as well. So thank you, Connor. If you can move to the next one. So now I'm going to discuss the site plan, Mr. Chairman. The project team has made an application to this Nashville City Planning Board for a site plan approval of an 18-hole disc golf course on a portion of Roby Park. City outdoor recreation is an allowed use in the R18 zone. Some elements of the project. The project proposes to use the existing upper parking lot along East Dunstable Road as the main parking for this activity. There'll be a small sign erected indicating that this is, quote, Roby Park Disc Golf Course. The site plan does show the routing of the various holes. As Andy Perlman said, the course has been designed by Avery Johnson and Simon Lazat, both professional disc golfers that have designed dozens of courses in the country. The plan shows the approximate length and direction of each hole. The starting point is up by that parking lot. In the way the course is routed, it works in a southerly direction to start. The layout eventually swings to the southwest, and there are crossings of that center wetland area I described earlier. And then the layout eventually returns back to its point of origin up near the parking lot. It should be noted that the course was laid out with the intent of keeping and maintaining the current walking trails through the property. Walkers will have rights of way, okay? There are a number of disc golf courses in this country, very similar situation in public parks with walking trails. They can coexist, much like ski boarders or snowboarders and skiers, okay? They can coexist. Safety is a concern, absolutely. We're going to hear that tonight from the public, and I'll talk a little bit about that. How does the course get built? It'll get built by DPW in consult with the course designer. The hole will be staked, the center line of the hole will be staked. Erosion control measures will be installed. The course designer will identify trees to be cut or trees in vegetation to be selectively limbed. Minimal tree clearing is the goal. However, trees need to be cut so that the disc golf hole is safe and playable. A number of felled trees will be chipped up and pushed into the woods. A number of felled trees will also be cut up and used as stringers for the bridge crossings that I'll talk about in just a minute. If there is any trees to be cut in the wetland or wetland buffer area, which is allowed, the stumps will not be removed in those areas. The plan uses the natural terrain. There'll be no earth moving, no big grading, unlike a regular golf course. The ground cover intent is to keep the forest floor, not mowed lawns, not irrigated lawns. The construction is fairly simple. A T-pad area, 6 by 12, a concrete post with a disc catcher. And the goal has been to minimize impacts through the wetlands. I told you there's a number of crossings of the wetlands. What was permitted by the Zoning Board of Adjustment was 9 total crossings, 6 of which are new, 3 of which are already existing crossings as part of the trail network. The focus and the intent of the design is to get the disc golfers to use those bridges and not be walking haphazardly through wetland areas. And they're going to do that through the combination of signage, of wetland markers, of clearly defining the areas where we want you to keep out of. And the goal would be to channelize players to these crossings. The bridges themselves are much like a wooded trail you might find in Mine Falls Park or Beaver Brook. The felled trees will be used as a base and then wood planks nailed on top, 6 feet wide, very minimal width. Wetlands are defined as out of bounds on this golf course, this disc golf course. Okay, a couple things that DPW is going to be doing as they manage this operation. They're responsible for the maintenance of the disc golf course, not a private party, the city of Nashua. Roby Park is for the public to enjoy. There are no tee times. There's a no litter policy, carry in, carry out. And you saw the sign in one of the photos that reflected that. Dogs on a leash are welcome in the park, as they are today. Disc golfers will be repeatedly told to stay out of the wetland areas with signage. As with all parks, no alcohol, tobacco, or smoking on the premises, and the course will be free to play. The City of Nashua, DPW, will implement the following. They'll conduct a course monitoring visit every year to this golf course and see if there's any areas that are seeing erosion, or they will see any areas that could be improved for safety. Reestablish the bridges and markers and other things that may have come down during the year. Supplemental planting, as I mentioned a minute ago, shall be all native species installed in consultation with the licensed wetland scientist. Invasive species management and construction of best management practice shall follow the guidelines as identified by the certified wetland scientist. The DPW, by controlling disc golf, can ensure that a tournament in the future would not be held the same weekend as the softball tournament. I'm going to talk parking in a minute, but we want to make sure we don't coincide tournament weekends so that there's an exacerbated problem. And for those interested, a Porta-John will be located near the upper parking lot along with regularly scheduled service. The city hopes, and the goal it would be to construct the course in 2025 with an opening in 2026. I'm wrapping up soon, Mr. Chair. Our application also included a traffic and parking study prepared by VHB. Now, as you know, traffic and parking are 2 different things. With regard to traffic, they counted trips at other disc golf facilities here in New Hampshire to come up with their baseline of anticipated trips. They're talking about a normal weekday of 110 trips total, 20 a.m. peak, 24 PM peak. Those are considered minimal traffic increases along such a collector route such as Pittsburgh Road. Now, with regard to parking, the parking study that was submitted indicates that the disc golf is expected to use between 23 and 46 parking spaces during typical conditions. It's the project team's opinion that there is ample parking during normal play conditions. However, we understand Ruby Park's a popular spot. It's a popular destination. DPW intends to closely monitor parking during the first year of disc golf, if successful. If it is determined that additional parking is needed, the city will address the issue. I can tell you, Mr. Chairman, that the design teams looked at 2 areas of expansion. The upper parking lot, I told you, contains 26 spaces, could be expanded to 60 spaces, an increase of 34. That would not be an easy project. There's quite a bit of topography up there. That would be a challenging design. But there is the land to do it, and if it's needed, that would be one area to grow parking. And then the second is along the main body of parking along Spitbrook Road. There's a small area east of the current parking lot that parking could be expanded without impacting the wetland or the wetland buffer. We anticipate or estimate that to contain 20 new spaces. So the site has the ability in those 2 locations to add parking. Why aren't we building those right out of the box? Well, they're expensive, and we don't want to overbuild parking. We want to look at it for that first year, monitor it, see what that right number is, and then proceed. And of course, any type of parking improvement would require us to come back to this board for approval. Okay, the application also included 3 waiver requests. The first, under 190-160, posting of a bond. Makes no sense that the city would have to post a bond for their construction of the disc golf course. Second waiver, 190-279 is a survey requirement. They're seeking waiver of that. And then under 190-279EE, the survey of all parcels within 1,000 feet. The submitted letter by DPW states the reasons and justifications. In summary, we believe the project is being designed in a responsible way in accordance with the Nashua Master Plan, and more importantly, in accordance with your Nashua Land Use Code, Section 190-146D. As you know, there's 19 criteria for approving a plan. It is our testimony this evening that we comply to those 19 criteria. The addition of a disc golf course at Roby Park truly provides an exciting programming opportunity for the city. Staff has done a good job in their review. They've identified a number of conditions that are of approval that are acceptable to the DPW. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I've gotten through my notes. I'd be happy to answer questions. If you do ask me a question that I don't feel I'm qualified or capable of answering, I'm going to call up some teammates and ask them to answer questions. So thank you for your time.
Jim, thank you. Just before we open it up to the board, was there anyone else on the project team that was programmed to speak tonight, or
just on Q&A?
That was it. Okay. All right. Questions from the board at this time? Mr. Varley, go right ahead, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Jimmy did a good job of preempting a bunch of my questions with your presentation, so I appreciate that. The one thing that I wanted to follow up on at the moment was just to understand a little bit more. You noted the issue about, or I should say the sort of the design where the holes are going to run sort of parallel with the existing trail in a number of places, with the expectation that those 2 uses can coexist. And so I gather that there's not a proposal, for example, to reroute the trail, that it's going to run through the course of the disc golf course. So can you just speak to that a little bit more in terms of how the sort of pedestrians on the trail have the right-of-way, just practically on the ground, what
Sure.
that looks like?
Sure, so that plays into the safety piece that we're all concerned about. The layout of the golf course has tried to, first and foremost, have the existing trail crossings in the wetland locations matched, okay, as best we can. I believe that there are also areas where the existing trail runs parallel to one of the disc golf holes. The rules will be clear that they have the right-of-way, and presumably the users of the trail will move forward to a safe position before the disc is thrown. During construction, we discussed that if we find that there's areas that are potentially blind spots, that we would want to remedy that during construction. We would want to make sure that visibility was improved so that the disc thrower can see that there's people actively walking in that location. And then lastly, we totally realized that there's a likelihood during construction that some of those trails could be relocated. I noticed in the drawings that some of the trails could very easily be slightly modified so they actually go behind a teeing area or away from a basket area.
Okay,
And-
so that is potentially available as an option as you're actually.
Absolutely.
on the
So
sidewalk, yeah.
my response is kind of a combination of all those things. It's signage, it's awareness, it's during construction, trying to minimize the blind areas as best as possible.
Thank you.
Other questions from the board? Ms. Harper, please.
Yes, when you were talking about the bridges going, the new bridges that could be constructed over the wetland areas, is that essentially gonna be walking between holes? Is that area won't necessarily be part of a hole?
It could be, yes. Some of the holes do cross the wetland complex. And so the way it's been presented in the drawings is those, as I tried to talk a little bit about, that those crossings are either, I think there's 3 or possibly 4 that already exist that are being maintained as trails, would be within a hole. The goal is to try to get people channelized through, 18-inch high staking or maybe some low roping to get people to walk through there. But they could be within a playing hole, yes, and not necessarily in between a teeing area and a basket area.
I guess what I think about is my own golfing skills and Frisbee skills and it flying into the wetlands beyond, I guess, the roped areas. I mean, is there anything to help prevent that to some degree?
I'm not a disc golf course designer, so I'm sure there's science to it, and I'm sure there's metrics to it, and I do believe it's been taken into consideration, but I'm not going to stand here and tell you somebody's not going to throw something into a wetland, because they likely are. That point did come up during the conservation hearing. You can walk in a wetland. That's allowed. Thankfully, through the main body of the course, we're working through kind of the narrowest part of the wetland, which I think is helpful. And then I spoke to and showed you, it's why I brought the picture of those retrievers to hopefully get people to use those to get the discs out. But again, the goal will be to minimize, and it's got to be with signage and possibly enforcement, that you've got to stay out of those areas. But I do think there will be discs thrown into wetlands, yeah.
I think so too. I have one more question.
Please,
I'm
no,
sorry.
continue.
And then just as far as, monitoring parking going forward, I mean, what does the parking look like now before the disc golf is even open?
Yeah, I know there's wonderful weather days where people are actively using the park and softball is busy. We do have the non-coincidental sports with the winter sports, so they typically wouldn't coincide. We know Roby Park is a popular destination. We think that everyday play, there'll be enough parking for it, and that's why we want to look at it and see it, and they're going to keep track of it and do parking counts, and then say, you know what, we don't want a crisis. The DPW does not want to create a problem at Roby Park. It's one of the gems in the city. There's no doubt about it. And so if they find they need parking, thankfully we've got land to build the parking, but they don't want to come out of the box overbuilding parking either. So, yeah, sure, peak days. And, you know, Attorney Perlman had an interesting dynamic. He said to me that in preparing for this evening, he said one of the benefits here is that the city's the owner, and they can really do something about it and watch this. We know there's a very successful gas station on DW Highway South, BJ's Gas. It's extremely popular. And if you've ever been by there, it can get really, 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 really busy. And yet, there's little or no recourse the city has when people back out into the streets. But here, by the city owning it, they can correct their problems much readily.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Green, please.
I'm not very familiar with this park. Is there a reason it's open from 6 A to 10 P instead of dusk to dawn, or is that already the park's operating hours?
Yeah, I believe park hours in the city are fixed at 7 a.m. to 10 p.m.
Okay, thank you. The site plan did have 6 a.m. to
Did it?
10 p.m.
Yeah.
Questions, other questions from the board at this time? For Attorney Perlman or Public Works, either?
No.
All right. Seeing none at this time. Jim, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
What I would like to do, as you've seen in the prior cases, we would like to open this up to the public. We usually do folks with opposition or concern. Could I get a quick show of hands just to gauge how many folks are here tonight to speak on this application in opposition or with concern? What I am going to do, just out of due diligence, I do just want to reiterate, everybody that wants to speak is going to get a chance to speak. What I would kindly request is to not duplicate things which have already been stated. You're certainly more than welcome to have your turn at the microphone, say you're opposed to the project for all the reasons previously stated. The other thing I would mention is that there's no need to read verbatim a letter which is already part of the record. Like to try to limit this to about a half an hour or so. So the longer that you go, you're just potentially taking away from your neighbor. Obviously, as I mentioned earlier, the board has the right to stop hearing public testimony at 10 o'clock. And there is still other board business this evening beyond this case. That being said, I would kindly invite you. You can form a line however you wish to do so if you're able to stand. But please just come up to the podium and introduce yourself for the record, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the Planning Board. John Sullivan, 30 Holbrook Drive, Nashua, New Hampshire. And I also rise tonight as Ward 9 Alderman, which Roby Park sits within, to speak concerns from residents that I've heard from. And I also speak to appeal to your spirit of compromise, because I do have a solution to this that I believe could work for all parties involved. But first, the disc golf saga, as far as I know it, started in the summer of 2021 when a group of disc golf enthusiasts approached the Board of Public Works in August. At that midday meeting in the middle of the summer, this group made their pitch to use the city land for a disc golf course. The following month, it was approved. All but one of the DPW directors voted to move forward with it. One director asked to table it until residents surrounding the park were notified and allow them to speak to the public to the change in use for the city-owned public park. Unfortunately, none of that happened before this project was approved. In early spring 2022, I was then Ward Alderman, and that's when I got involved in this project. when I was called down to the site to find that trees were being cut and brush taken away for the course. Since then, the project has been stalled, and there have been many meetings, both small and large, in this room and in the Conservation Commission and other meetings that you've mentioned. As a city representative of this ward, a majority of the residents that I've heard from are against this. I've personally met and heard from residents on Southgate Drive, Oak Hill, and Bayview condominiums. All of those are direct abutters to this portion of Roby Park that will be used. My concerns as the ward alderman center on traffic, parking, and keeping as much green space as possible available to Nashua residents. In reading the traffic assessment from February 2025, normal operations at the disc golf course was determined that parking and traffic would be ample. It was noted that during special events, traffic and parking may be impacted. That's where I'm concerned. Knowing this area as I do, it is these events that concern me most. Now, what I would put forth on the public record. Instead of an all or nothing, allow disc golf to design a 9-hole course. A compromise. A good compromise is one where both sides leave the table feeling they didn't get everything they wanted, but finish the negotiation satisfied and agreement was made. 9 holes allows enjoyment for the disc golfers and non-disc golfers who use this public city land. It should be fair to all concerned, and this solution addresses just that. I appreciate your time, and I wish you luck in your decision tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Alder.
Hello and good evening. My name is Michael Gaudian.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry, feel free to adjust that.
Hi, my name is Michael Gaudian. I'm a resident of 287 East Dunstable Road, South Nashua. Thank you for your time. As you may or may not know, I've submitted a letter expressing my concerns about the proposed disc golf development at Roby Park, highlighting the safety and equitable access issues for South Nashua hikers and bikers. The letter questions the park's benefits relative to its ecological and recreational costs and suggests an alternative site closer to downtown. This alternative would improve access for Nashua's underserved communities and align with the city's investment in the downtown area. Tonight, I'd like to supplement my letter with a request to revise and reposition the signage for the proposed disc golf course at Roby Park. I ask that the signs be placed at the trailhead locations rather than the park entrances, which many trail users do not pass, and include a clear description of the course's use and its impact to the trail users. This ensures that all park patrons are informed about the proposed changes. I have a few comments from tonight that came up from tonight. One of the leading benefits that was pointed out by the attorney who spoke first on behalf of the disc golf was it was benefit as an amenity to the city. However, no data is available relative to Nashua's benefit from a use or commercial sense. 600 signatures does not support either. I want to know a little bit more about what led to the selection of this site by the DPW. I've seen no evidence of this review or site alternatives aside from the already existing and currently underutilized disc golf course at Greeley Park. DPW stated that the land at Roby Park is underutilized, but what method in reporting does the DPW have to support that finding? Annually, porta potties burn, dumpsters are spilled over, and littering occurs at Roby Park. When vandalism ultimately occurs at the disc golf course, who will pay for its repair? Additionally, enforcement of the course's care and adherence to the park rules is admittedly potentially necessary for the disc golf course. Who will do that and who will pay for that? Not all holes, I don't know, with all respect, I don't know if they're called holes, but with each hole on the course, while some are parallel, some do cross over the trailhead. And regardless of parallel, non-intercepting courses where trails and holes align, what happens with inaccurate throws? Or in terms of blind spots, how will topographical blind spots be accommodated? So, you know, I think that these type of questions need answers before a decision can be made by the public. So, you know, in summary, I'm really in favor of disc golfers getting a great facility that's worthy of use, and that's awesome. I don't want to be negative about that. But I love the trail system as it is. I'm a user amongst many others. And I think there's tremendous vagueness about this plan at current, and it prevents the public from weighing in on this project in a meaningful manner. Those are my comments. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Good evening.
Hi, good evening. My name is Denise Musioli. I'm a direct abutter to Oak Hill at 6 Midhurst. I also sent you a letter. I don't know if I heard incorrectly in the beginning. I think you said there was only one letter of opposition received.
No, we received a package.
Okay,
It was
okay.
one document, but there were a series of
Oh, perfect,
letters,
okay,
yes.
okay. Sorry, I got that wrong. So a couple of concerns I have, I'll try not to duplicate what, you know, what I said in the letter. With the bridges, they have to go through NHDES for approval. I don't see anything on there saying that there was an application done. I talked to Peter at NHDS today, and he said those bridges have to go through the state for approval. The other issue is they're gonna use epoxy on it. I know that it's recommended by the manufacturer that epoxy should be applied off-site if possible, and if not, they have to be very careful that it doesn't drip into the wetlands, because we're gonna have some serious ecological problems as a result. So that's an issue. And then if it's not drying, you got dog walkers walking through, and wild animals are gonna get epoxy all over them, which would be, that is a hazardous material. I'm concerned about the aesthetics from where we live, directly abutting the course. We're gonna have markers and ropes and signs and baskets. At 6 in the morning, I don't think that even passes the city of Nashua's noise ordinance. With the parking, if they choose to add parking down by the lower lot, that's a problem. Nobody could tell me if that was a vernal pool at all. A vernal pool has a lot of ecological significance. Right now, NHDES is calling that emergent wetland. That's a 40-foot buffer. So if you have cars parking there and asphalt and all of that, in addition to the trash that I have had to pick out of there with sticks and stuff, that's another huge problem. So that can't be used for parking. I don't think that's going to pass anybody's, review. We're going to cut down trees when all of the wildlife are raising their babies. That's what's going to happen. We have bobcat, we have fox families, bobcat families, we have coyote families, all living in those rock croppings. And those are going to be used for what? I don't know. I hope that somebody gives some thought to the wildlife that live there, because it's not fair to them, especially at this time of year. They'll be gone soon enough from rearing their babies. Trash barrels in the woods, not a good idea. Talk to any fish and game person, not a good idea. You're going to have bears getting in there, getting habituated. There's bear back there. So guess who has to suffer when the bear's habituated? They're going to come up to our dumpsters looking for food. And we're going to have, all kinds of rodents and stuff. And, if you drive out the apex predators, the rodents are going to come onto our property. That's a problem. Lights, this is another thing. So at 10 o'clock say they're playing at 9 o'clock or 7 o'clock, it's dark out. They got headlamps to find the discs, the baskets, I mean. How are they going to know if there's a deer standing near that tree? How are they going to know if there's an owl on that branch? They're not going to know any of these things. Their headlights aren't going to show. Their headlights aren't going to show if there's a bunch of kids sitting there partying in the woods, although they'll probably hear the kids partying. So these are things, that are really, I don't think enough thoughts go into it. And also, I don't see in the packet a current Natural Heritage Bureau certificate. It expired on 9/20/23 for this project. I don't see that anybody else has put that up there. Lastly, I gave you guys in the letter, hopefully you got it, I show that it is conservation land. And when I went to the Register of Deeds, he agreed with me. So somebody's got to fix some records. If you're all not saying that that's conservation land, that's a big problem, because it is listed on the current maps, GIS. I checked with Carter Falk, to make sure I was using the right system, and that's listed as conservation land. There's a small, like 1 acre plot, and then there's a 57 acre plot listed as conservation land. Somebody should look at that and make sure, because if that is conservation land, it does not allow for active, only passive activities. Disc golf is considered an active activity. Zoning was told there wasn't supposed to be any impervious surfaces. Now we have signs that are impervious surfaces, I agree with the 9 holes. If, you know, I agree with the compromise. I don't like it, but I would agree to it, before we start doing a bunch of appeals and stuff and costing everybody a lot of money. Point 66, 600 people were interested in this. That's only 0.66% of Nashua citizens that are supposedly interested. I had a petition, I had 700 people. They had 600. And we've spent way more than we're allowed a $30,000 grant, $30,000 grant from the Rotary Club. We've already spent $45,000 total. 15 of that, I believe, came from the grant. So I don't think they should be granted any hardships. Everything should be plotted, and the site plan should all be done. And the professional disc golfers, I'm not trying to insult anybody, but they do not have degrees in forestry. They do not have degrees in wetland. Their goal is to make it a challenging game without worrying about the other stuff, and there's no certification. And lastly, so as far as safety goes, you know, you can have all the rules in place and things are gonna go wrong. A couple of years ago, someone got hit in the face with a puck because the guys playing hockey wouldn't get off for regular skate time. I myself was driving down Spitbrook Road, and a puck came flying by and almost hit the car, which I wouldn't really care if it hit the car, but if it went through my windshield and hit me in the head, that would be a problem. So you can say that it's going to be safe, but I have my doubts. And I don't think that anybody here in this room is going to be unsafe, but there's going to be a bunch of people playing it that won't be safe. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Hi, good evening.
Good evening. My name is Judy Taylor, and I live at 111 Hawthorne Village Road, excuse me, in Sky Meadow. And I'm opposed to this project for many reasons, but I'll just talk on traffic right now. It's very difficult right now, with nothing else going on, just in everyday traffic, to get out of Sky Meadow. We have to wait sometimes 25 cars before we can get out. So the application says there's no effect upon the surrounding traffic congestion and pedestrian safety. Normal traffic is expected in and out of the parking lots on Spitbrook Road and East Dunstable Road. Well, I think the traffic on Spitbrook Road on a summer weekend is impossible to get through. They park on either side of Spitbrook Road and East Dunstable Road, and it's like a maze to go through this, and you have to go really slowly because kids run in and out. In fact, there was an accident back in November when a child ran out on the road from Roby Park, and his father ran after him, and both of them were hit by a vehicle. The child, fortunately, had only minor injuries, but the father had very serious bodily injuries. So, you know, that's just one example of what could happen with all of this traffic. So, let's see. So Avery Jenkins, the designer of the golf course, stated at the June 25th meeting of the zoning board that this course will be a huge draw throughout the Northeast. He also stated that he expected a couple hundred rounds per month to a couple thousand rounds per month. Now, with all that amount of players coming, that's certainly going to increase the traffic around Roby Park. And then he expects 2 tournaments a year, which I think will draw a huge crowd, spectators, maybe even vendors, families coming to watch the tournament. So a round of golf, now this is just my estimation, I don't know how true it is consists of 4 players at each hole regularly. If the course is full, that means 4 players times 18 holes could equal 72 players. So that could be 72 cars, because mostly people don't carpool anymore. So with the 26 parking spaces up on the upper lot, that already would be overcrowded. And so, let's see. And then, so using his prediction of 200 rounds a month, if we guesstimate 72 players on the course multiplied by 200 rounds, that could equal a possible 14,400 players at Roby Park in a month. Even if all 18 holes aren't being used at one time, there still will be an unusually large increase in traffic around the park a month. Now, worst case scenario, where he says it could be a possibility of 2,000 rounds per month, that would just double the 200. And it would put a giant burden of extra cars and traffic on Spitbrook Road and East Dunstable Road. All of this extra traffic and increased usage of the park with the disc golf players driving from Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Vermont, Connecticut, and Maine will certainly greatly change the character of our neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, good evening.
Hi, Sharon Lockwood. I live at 398 East Dunstable Road. A lot of what I wanted to say we've touched on, so I will just share with you some of my own personal experience. As far as parking and safety, there were 2 occasions last winter after snowstorms when there were families at the top of the sliding hill. And there were 15 cars, because I counted them, underneath the no parking signs. So, and the children were walking back and forth as if it was a parking lot, not a road. So that's dangerous. If somebody in my neighborhood had needed a fire truck or an ambulance, it would not have been able to get through. So the parking is a huge issue, and no parking signs are ignored. Trash cans don't work. I walk that road every day, and the trash goes from the top of the sliding hill, across the street from that, and then all the way down to the houses on the Mass border. I called the city about that, as well as a no parking, or not a no parking, a sign that's supposed to keep people going at a reasonable rate, and it's leaning into the woods and you can't see it, and it's still all there. The other thing I wanted to mention is the Union Leader had a front page story October 31st, and it stated that the Nashua Aldermen okayed up to $45 million in bonds to do infrastructure projects, and these were considered essential. So if we're borrowing money to do things that are essential, why are we talking about something that's not essential? Should this not go on a ballot for all of Nashua to vote? Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, good evening.
Good evening. My name is Christina McKinley, 6 Southgate Drive. And I'm going to call attention to an article that was this year, January 22nd, and the title was Safety Concerns Prompt Nashua Officials to Separate Hockey Players from Recreational Skaters. Hockey players are now banned from Roby Park exactly for reasons that have already been noted, because multi-use of that space has not worked out well and has resulted in injuries both to a child and an adult. That is something that over the last 3.5 years, attending many of these meetings, I've done a lot of research, and starting on West Coast and heading our direction, there are many parks that have discovered that trying to use multi-use ideas has resulted in not only injuries but lawsuits. My first connection to the whole issue was actually before disc golf was ever even discussed, and our neighborhood was looking for help from the city regarding trash and traffic and parking, which was already mentioned during sledding season, and the safety hazard that that has created for our neighborhood for ambulance and whatever. And this is a petition that was signed by everyone in our neighborhood, and this was dated November 21. All due respect to the comments that were made before, that this is city property, and so therefore they can correct mistakes. This was November 21. Trash is no different. Parking, you have heard already, is still happening right underneath the signs that our alderman so nicely managed to finally put no parking signs on. Hasn't changed anything. And if I look to most things in my life, I look at, watch what someone does, not what someone says. And what I have seen from the Department of Public Works, unfortunately, it's the same experience since I moved here 30 years ago. Our neighborhood does our own pickup of trash as a consequence. We go out with our chainsaws to cut down dead limbs that land in the road. There is nothing that's done, even from the ease of a bucket truck, where you could take care of the trees that need trimming, that you could get rid of vines. So when I'm listening to we're going to manage invasive species, that's not done even on the roadside. So I don't see how that's going to happen throughout the park. This decision to get rid of hockey on the same rink as skaters, and the problem was following rules. And yet we're listening to people talk about how all the rules will be followed by disc golfers. Why would we think that? There are rules about trash for sledders. There was a $250 fine sign. It didn't make any difference. The trash is everywhere. So I don't know why we're thinking that disc golfers are some amazing people that don't do any of this. It's been called to our attention that there are already 70 disc golf courses in New Hampshire, 33 of which apparently have 18 holes. How many strictly walking trails are there? Not for bikers, not for disc golfers. Where do people go in New Hampshire, and specifically in Nashua, where they're not going to be amongst anyone who's competing, they're not going to be flown by a biker, where they can be contemplative? I don't think there are many places. What percentage of the population in Nashua participate in team sports? It's a question I think we ought to be asking. And why must productive use of land focus on competition? I don't know why that is, but I think it's worth asking the question. There's been a great deal written about health benefits, particularly during the COVID years, of why people need space away from screens, quiet space, contemplative space, creative space. This is that kind of space, and we're about to take it away. There's been a lot said about the parking and how much the designer, this Avery Jenkins, who's a championship disc golfer, his focus is on creating tourism. I believe Mayor Donch's focus is on expanding, making this a destination space for tourism. I don't believe that the Rotary Club, when they originally donated $30,000, that they anticipated all of this. They, I think, genuinely thought this was going to be for families. How many families get to do pickup games at the baseball field? If you don't belong to a team, you don't get to play. I think that the focus on tournaments and international competition and making this a destination location speaks for itself. This is not going to end up for families. The National Disc Golf Association, in their own documentation, state that there needs to be a 300 to 450 foot guideline away from other borders. At least 8 holes on this course do not meet the Disc Golf Association's own directives. And when they talk about, you know, get the kind of coexisting with walkers, what person wants to be walking by when these discs can be thrown 175 to 250 feet by a novice, 250 to 350 feet by someone intermediate, and a tournament player 300 to 450 feet, and that can be 50 to 70 miles an hour. Is that really going to work with walkers? And are they these sort of remarkable disc players who are going to follow all the rules, and it's in a forest, so they're going to have to see around trees? Do you really think that this isn't an accident waiting to happen? I personally think it is. I think there's a reason also why every time we come, the plans look different. And this amendment, I find it interesting that a waiver has been requested against having to post a bond or an escrow agreement. I suspect that's because they've already spent taxpayer dollars. They've already spent, and if they had used all of what the Rotary Club had provided that was supposed to cover the whole thing, we would already be in the hole. And I think the city doesn't want us to know how much is this really going to cost, and how much will maintenance over time cost. And they're talking about, you know, hand clipping. How many people are you going to need to be going in to hand clip all through this course? The Conservation Committee required, and I had an opportunity to listen to them talk with private owners who wanted to cut, I think it was a total, there were 3 owners, a total of 7 trees. And they were required to keep them 14 feet tall, jagged at the top, in addition had to be taken care of by an arborist. They had to, for the right to do that, manage invasive species. My question is, why is city land not subject to those same requirements? And finally, I'd like to say that the statistics regarding support or dissent, I looked after the June meeting at all of the letters that came in, as well as the notes regarding speakers. 1/2 of all speakers were not from Nashua. 2/3 of the letters that came in were not from Nashua. In contrast, all but 1 of the speakers who opposed the disc golf course were from Nashua. I think that's an interesting thing to pay attention to. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak in opposition or concern this evening? Thank you. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak in favor of this application? Just so yeah, actually, you know what, I apologize in advance. Could we actually just take a quick break with the board? I'd like to call a quick recess if I can. So, we're in recess at 9:20. About 5 minutes or so.
Folks, we're back in session, so I'd like to ask for order, please. Apologies for the interruption, but, so this is the line of folks that's wishing to speak in favor of the project. I would make the same request that I made of the others, just, try to keep your comments concise and not repeat what's already been stated. Other than that, just please introduce yourself for the record.
Hi, Karen Bill, 95 Parnell Place here in Nashua. I am a Nashua native. And the nice thing about the parks in Nashua is that they are available for all residents. And I've always strongly felt that Roby Park was never an option for me as a resident because I didn't have small children who, sledded or played ball or any of that stuff. And I would think that the people who actually spoke in opposition earlier would be thrilled with a disc golf situation coming, because what so many of them have spoken about is the horrible traffic, the horrible trash, the horrible, so many horrible things. All that's going on now. When I first walked the park to see it, I could not believe that there was boards in what was wetland area that had been there, and there was trash, and I was kind of appalled, and I would probably get lost just walking in there because it's a very large area. So then I started playing disc golf, and I was blown away by the people that played, that they were so caring of the environment. You don't move a rock, you don't move a stick to throw the disc. There was no wild discs flying all over the place. They're not hitting anybody in the head. They're not going 500 feet. Oh God, if I could only throw my disc 500 feet, I'd be winning things. There's a disproportionate amount of attention being paid to this versus other Nashua parks. The hours will be the same. If there was a typo, there was a typo. It's not 6 in the morning, it's 7. And things like our wetland specialist, Brendan, who is so revered in this state, for people to think that he has not done beyond his homework is crazy. Everything, people have been bending over backwards, and we've gone well above wetlands concerns, okay? I want to stay local. I don't want to have to drive 30 to 45 minutes to go play disc golf. I'm a new player. I want to be the expert on this course. Let me tell you, it's only a couple miles from my house, and I just can't even wait, because it's going to be such an improvement. There's not going to be any dripping epoxy. It's kind of like, sometimes I hear some of these things and I think, is it me? Am I being delusional? Or come on. If every unsafe place in this city, which is not going to be a disc golf course, were closed down, well, we might as well start with the highway since there's so many accidents. Thank you. I appreciate your time and listening, and let's get it going so we can improve Roby Park. Thank you.
Step right up. Good evening.
Good evening, Dr. Richard Smart, 159 Searles Road, lifelong Nashua resident. I am the holder of the petition with the 600 signatures. We originally presented 100 signatures to the mayor to get this project rolling. There's a lot of misinformation that's been presented tonight. There's a lot of outright lies that have been presented here tonight, including one by an elected city official. I wish my alderman had stuck around to hear my comments. He does not represent just the 4 or 5 folks that live on Southgate and in that general. He represents the entirety of Ward 9, okay? On that petition, I counted before I came here tonight, 118 of the 625 signatures are from Ward 9. Who are you serving? Who are you listening to? There's got to be open, honest discourse when this happens. A couple other points I want to make, and I will keep this brief. Why do we want 18 holes and not 9 holes? Because that's what the application's for, all right? We didn't come here tonight to compromise. We came here tonight to receive permission to move forward with this project. This is not new. This didn't come out of nowhere. It hasn't been done under the guise of night. There have been almost 20 public meetings at this point. It's a constant attack of city officials talking about DPW like they're not in the room. These folks work for the city. They work hard. They make sure that we're all safe. In regards to safety, people are trying to scare you tonight and tell you that people are going to be injured or maimed. There has been one incident in the state of New Hampshire since I have become very active so 2015 to now, in the last 10 years, there's been one incident that has required someone to receive medical care. One. The other stories they're talking about are these gigantic mixed-use parks. Think about Greeley Park on steroids in the middle of California, all right? This is a mixed-use park. They have realized that this isn't the best design, it isn't the best way to do it. Most of those parks have been redesigned by experts, all right? The comments that have been made about Avery Jenkins and Simon Lizotte not being up to the task at hand would be like saying that Jack Nicklaus is not up to the task at hand for designing a golf course. Folks don't know who these people are. Avery Jenkins just led Team USA to another President's Cup. That just happened. This is not something that is small. This is something that is a global sport. It is the second fastest growing sport right now, teetering back and forth with pickleball. All right? Pickleball was put in Nashua very quickly. It was taken care of. It's far more expensive. The last thing I want to talk about is the expenses part of it. The money that was originally slated for this project has unfortunately been spent on other things that would not have been done without the misinformation and lies that the opposition continues to tell. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Hi, good evening.
Good evening, Chair, members of the board, Steve Abadili, 6 Pell Avenue. I would like to speak, of course, in favor of the course being proposed at Roby Park, and I would like to address some of the concerns that were approached by the opposition tonight. An example, entering the wetlands to retrieve a disc. I understand that's a big concern, and we want to protect the wetlands as best as we can. Most disc golfers who are aware will have a retriever on them at all times, or if they are advised by signage to not enter the wetlands, we could discuss in the future possibly having DPW go through as part of their assignment in inspecting the course, pick out discs in an approved manner from there to minimize impact. I would also like to talk about signage. A lot of people brought up concerns about obstructed views and similar safety concerns. If it is such a concern, which most signs on the course will address out of bounds markings, including not limited to wetlands and various other impediments on the course. They can also be built up to address potential blind spots. Regarding the use of other trail systems and studies, there was one gentleman who brought up a case that this was the only place that was looked at. That is not the case. I know that at minimum, Mine Falls, Udicki Farm, and Greeley Park were looked at as possible sites for this. It was determined that this would be the best suited site for a course of this nature to be installed. I'll go ahead and conclude here by saying that as ambassadors for the sport, us disc golfers try to get everybody who is there to treat the course, the nature around it, and other users, including those who are not playing the sport, with respect. And this is one of the things that I have taken away from it in my 8 years playing, is it's a great way to embrace the trail systems and nature in the city. Much like as a youth, I would play baseball at Lions Park or Sunset Heights, or as a teenager and young adult, I would mountain bike the trails of Mine Falls and Udicki Farm with respect to other patrons at the park. I thank you for your time, and I would again like to support this and hope that it moves forward expeditiously. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, good evening.
Hi, thank you for your time. My name is Brian Moget, live at 1 Maple Street in Drake. I am one of those people that someone earlier had spoken, oh, you know, people in favor. There's very few from Nashua or New Hampshire alone. Well, I grew up here my whole life. I'm only new to Massachusetts. I consider this my home, and I would love to see something like this happen. I believe it would be very beneficial to families, to businesses, and as far as what the mayor was saying, oh, why can't it be a 9-hole course? Well, a 9-hole course won't bring in the majority of tournaments, commerce, shops, everything else. As far as the parking goes, I believe there are many large hotels down in the south end. Those will have business. People will be flying in, the pros. They're gonna be spending a couple days. They're gonna dine out, they're gonna eat, they're gonna sleep. They're gonna live in Nashua, and they're gonna be able to experience what I experienced growing up. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, good evening.
Good evening. My name is Janet Valuk. I live at 41 Roy Street in Nashua. It's been my home for the last 39 years, and I'm very proud to call this city my home. I am a member of the Rotary Club that has provided $30,000. And before every meeting, we start with our 4-way test. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? These are the words, again, that we start each of our meetings with, and we live by those words. The truth is that this course would be a wonderful addition to the city. It is fair since it will be available for all to enjoy. This is not just something for older people that are on a golf course. Small children, families could have a great opportunity to be outside and convene with nature and have a great time. Many residents are looking forward to be able to play on this course. The last 2 statements are absolutely true. Families and friends can play for free, so it is fair to all concerned. It knows no monetary barriers whatsoever, and have an opportunity to be outdoors and benefit from this wonderful addition to our community. As a member of Rotary and a Nashua resident, I would like to request that you approve the disc golf course at Roby Park. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Good evening.
Hello. Brian Chamberlain, 8 Althea Lane. I'm in favor, obviously, and agree with everyone who's spoken in front of me. There's one thing that I'd like to point out is the numbers that were brought up, or the amount of people that will be on the course at a time. I'm not showing up with 72 of my friends at 10 a.m. to play a round. I'm showing up with 4. So that's 4 people on the course for 2 hours, and then maybe 4 behind me for 2 hours, not 14,000 in a day. That was a bit excessive on numbers. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, good evening.
Good evening. Thank you for your service to our city. My name is Helen Honoro. I'm a member of the Rotary Club of Nashua West. I live at 46 Raymond Street here in Nashua, and I'm also a business owner here in Nashua. I've raised my family here in Nashua. One of the things that attracted the Rotary Club of Nashua West to this project was that it would be an opportunity for people to have healthy opportunities, low-cost opportunities to exercise and be out in nature. There's so little cost involved in becoming a disc golf player. The outlay is so inexpensive that families of all means would have an opportunity to use this. While I live in the North End, I think that having the opportunity to use our park system throughout the city and allowing people of all ages, and that's something very important to Rotary, that it's an entire community opportunity. I want to be very clear. The Rotary Club of Nashua West is fully supportive, eyes wide open, nothing has been pulled, no wool has been pulled over our eyes, and importantly, there has been due process and an opportunity for everyone in this community to be heard if they would like to. I am fully supportive personally with the Rotary Club of Nashua West. Chose this project to celebrate our 50th year of service to this community. It was an anniversary of sorts, if you will, and we wanted to take the opportunity to join with the city to provide yet another opportunity for people in our community to have safe, healthy opportunities to be out in nature. They can certainly operate together. Everyone understands that the park will continue to operate in the way it always has, but that this amenity would be really important to people of all ages in our city. I hope personally that you will approve this application for the full 18 holes, and I know the Rotary Club of Nashua West would ask for that too. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. Alex McLean, 47 William Street. Also employee of the city. I work for the Parks Department. It's crazy that you have individuals out there on a weekly, daily basis and setting up their own baskets inside of Greeley Park and throwing Frisbees and at whatever rate they throw them, and the individuals around them are not up in arms, but yet you attempt to do something like this and we have everybody up in arms. I just want to talk, my kids have been out on a disc golf course since they were babies, walking in a stroller. They're 11 and 12 now. Majority of these individuals here have never seen me without my kids on a disc golf course. A lot of them, even the very first municipal disc golf course that was approved in the state of New Hampshire, it's over at Dover. That is one of the most heavily used disc golf courses, and it is also the most heavily used walking disc golf course. That they don't have any issues, and they haven't had any issues. And issues over conservation land, I can cite many of different disc golf courses that are all on conservation land. This is not anything that's out of the norm. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, members, again, Andy Perlman, Pernier Perlman, attorneys here in Nashua. You recall at the outset, I said I wanted to speak for a moment as a witness, so I'm going to speak for a moment as a witness if it pleases the board. Then I do want to have some rebuttal time for comments that were made. And the reason I want to speak as a witness, because since I got involved with this project since January 2024, I've actually used it to get out and spend some time outside. My wife and I have walked 4 courses, 4 full disc golf courses, 2 in Manchester, the Hollows courses, north and south, 1 course in Franklin, Mass, and 1 course nearby, and it begins with an M, I forget the town. But we walked these 4 courses while they were being used, while they were, some were busier than others, but we walked the courses, and just to get a sense of the operation, we weren't playing disc golf. We were just walking, and we would tell people I'm walking because I'm involved in this project. I just want to feel it out and see it out. So people were about to tee off, and we would say, do you mind if we walk ahead? And they said, well, let us tee off. You guys can walk, and then when we're going to throw again, stop. We'll call you out and stop and pull, move to the side of the fairway, and then watch for our discs, and then you can keep walking. Not once did we have any concern for our safety. It was so friendly. It was so welcome. Please enjoy the walk in the woods. It was fantastic. And not once did we ever think that there's going to be a Frisbee that's going to hit the back of our head, right? Because the disc players saw that there were walkers on the course, and they respected us, and they let us do our thing. And I expect the same here. All of the courses that we walked are all the same as what we're proposing in Roby Park. It's all town, our city-owned land. They all have wetlands on them. It's hard. You can't avoid 30 some odd acres and not have some wetlands on them. They all have bridges. They all have signs. They all have some ropes of guiding the players. They're all the same. But what I want to tell you as a witness is what we took away from our walks, and we actually, my wife reminded me that we played a round of disc golf some years ago in Pennsylvania. What we took away from it was 2 things: family and friends, and respect. I said that this is zoning board, and I'm going to say it here tonight. Family and friends, we just saw groups of friends, 20-year-olds. We saw 3 generations playing together. We saw dogs being walked. It was just the friendliest thing. And then the respect part of it, since I've been involved in this thing, I'm really taken by the disc golf community because all these courses are immaculate. There's no trash. There's no beer bottles. There's no trash. They're all carry in, carry out. These are immaculate courses, and it's because of the disc golf community. They don't put up with any baloney, and we were just so taken by the discipline and just the camaraderie. If you talk to folks who run these disc golf organizations, they will have a cleanup day. There's a couple in the back of the room, Norma and Bill Bruce. They operate programs up in Manchester, and they will say, we call out, every spring and fall, we will have a cleanup day. No play on the course. We're going to get 100 people walk the course and pick everything up, right? Pick up, discs that may be lost or whatnot. Just the community is so impressive. And, I don't know the stories about trash, Rugby Park. I don't live down there, but my experience from what I witnessed that is not true from what I saw. And, the zoning board, one of the zoning board members, Neely, he said, I actually I walked the Halls course up in Manchester, and he said just what Attorney Perlman said. It was immaculate. It's clean. It was respected, and so that's my story as a witness. This is the disc golf community you heard tonight. They're an impressive group. So that's my take as a witness, Mr. Chairman, and I would like an opportunity to rebut some comments, if that's okay.
You may possibly, I just want to take the temperature of the board here. Obviously, there was quite a bit of testimony tonight. We're approaching 10 o'clock. What's the mood of the board with respect to hearing a rebuttal? I guess the follow-up to that would be, if we hear the rebuttal, are we then interested in deliberating, knowing there's still some other business items on the agenda? I don't want to force anybody into anything, but any general thoughts on how we may wish to proceed from here?
Can we define the time? Can we give a time limit to the rebuttal?
It's very hard to do, I think.
Yeah, I think
The
so.
probably is such a complex issue we may want to discuss.
That's true.
In our meeting.
I would suggest that we at least hear the rebuttal, and we could always, reassess after that to determine whether we think that we need, another meeting to deliberate or not.
Yeah, we're not trying to pigeonhole the applicant or draw things out unnecessarily, but there was a lot of commentary. We want to give you as much opportunity to respond to those comments as possible, but if we're talking another hour potentially on a rebuttal, I'm just making up a number hypothetically, and then we go into our deliberation. I think this is why we kind of established that unofficial cutoff, but I think it seems like it's the pleasure of the board. We'd like to give you an opportunity this evening to rebut.
Well, the rebuttal is one person each, correct?
No, it's you. It's solely, it's the applicant's team.
Oh.
This is your, yeah.
3 minutes, I promise.
I won't hold you to that, but.
It's okay.
We appreciate it, thank you.
Just some comments, and it's not, just to call some things out, there was nothing particularly technical from those in opposition with concern, so we just want to call out some comments. Mr. Varley, your initial questions about trail conflict, I tried to explain that in my comments as a witness. The 9-hole question came up at the zoning board. The 9-hole proposal was rejected because we think the course would fail in and of itself. People want to play 18 holes. People don't want to come here and play 9 holes in half an hour and take off. It's not what's being proposed. It's not a positive experience for disc golfers. Mr. Guardian, if I'm saying that name correctly, and I apologize if I'm not, he raised a question of location. And there was a gentleman speaking in favor who was exactly right. We met with Director Photo yesterday. Greeley Park, Mines Falls, Udicki were all looked at and were all ruled out for different reasons, primarily because the topography of Roby Park is what disc golf players like to play on. They like the challenge. The other areas were too flat, too boring. It wouldn't bring players back. The Roby Park was the best option that the city considered, and they did consider a number of options. Ms. Micholi had a couple comments. She is correct. DES has to sign off on the crossings, but because the crossings are so minor, the approvals are done by notice. There's no formal hearing or anything. Dan Hudson will simply send out notice that the project complies with DES requirements, and that's about it. There's no trash barrels being proposed on the course or in the course. It's just going to be carry in, carry out. There'll probably be a trash barrel by the parking lot along near the porta potty. This is not conservation land. When I first got into this, I did title on Roby Park. There is no easements there, and I represent as counsel before you that there is no restrictions or easements. There's a sewer easement in Roby Park, but that's about it. It is not conservation land. There was talk about tournaments. And tournaments, they don't expect many tournaments. There'll be a handful of tournaments over the years. Tournaments are run by professionals. Tournaments will be told if you're going to have a big crowd that you have to manage your crowd. You have to find some off-site parking and shuttle to the site. I watched a tournament up in Manchester, and it was a popular tournament. It was a New England tournament, and the way the Bruces actually ran it, they have timed tee times, and players are told not to show up until like 15 minutes before your tee time, and it scatters the crowd over the day. It really works. So tournaments will be a benefit because it'll draw people to Nashua, but they can be managed professionally, managed well. And finally, there was one comment at the end, Ms. McKinley. She said, quote, "If you don't belong to a team, you don't get to play. This is going to end up not end up for families," is a quote. And that couldn't be more wrong. You know, it's a shame these meetings are run late into the night because the zoning board had a lot of kids come out and a lot of coaches come out and say, "This is great." A lot of teachers say, "This is great for my students. This is something that costs, I don't know, $10, $20 to buy a disc. Kids can get out there. The cost to, just as Ms. Honoro said, the cost to get into this sport is next to nothing compared to all our other options. I have a granddaughter, and I'm intentionally not buying her hockey equipment, all right, because I don't want to go down that road. Maybe I'll buy her a disc. But this is designed for families. Yes, there'll be tournaments. Yes, there'll be pros coming to this thing. But this is such a family-friendly, free, meant for the city. So we're looking for your approval tonight. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. So put it back to the board. Before we close the public hearing, any further questions of staff or applicant's team? All right. Well, seeing none, we're going to close the public hearing now regardless. I guess, again, I'll put out a similar question. Pleasure of the board in terms of deliberating this tonight. What's your capacity for moving on?
I'm okay to keep going.
You guys are good?
Yeah.
Okay. Maggie?
Yes.
Doesn't have to be
I will make
unanimous,
it.
but okay. All right. So, all right. Obviously, we heard a lot of information this evening, both pro and con. But I guess this is one I'd really like to hear from our board members first. General thoughts or impressions?
Yeah.
Please, Mr. Green. Yep.
Well, I personally play a lot of outdoor sports, not disc golf in particular, but volleyball and softball, friends. Most of the people that tend to end up playing aren't malicious in their intent. They're there to play the game. get out. So, you know, I probably echo many of the thoughts of some of the people who were for the proposal. And just looking at, you know, generally our master plan and some of the other objectives of the city, I think this does bring it as a place for most people, almost everybody. So I tend to think that it fits the use of the space in the park, and, you know, similar sites that I've seen throughout college with pedestrians moving throughout those types of courses, and at work we put them in as well, and there hasn't been any issues with even getting close to hitting cars, even though they're very close to parking lots. So, you know, aesthetically, it's very similar as well. There's park and conservation. It's not an intensive sport, like you're not clear cutting everything. You're not creating any additional spaces you're not doing additional civil work to really destroy what's existing there. So I think this is relatively low impact for the area that it's being proposed for.
Thank you, Mr. Green. Others? Mr. Varley, please.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I would echo some of the comments from Mr. Green. I mean, I appreciate that this is not a zero impact use, right? Some trees are going to be cut. You know, we've heard about, you know, additional bridges being added. But I would say of the sort of uses you could envision here, this is a relatively low impact use. And I think we've heard a bunch of testimony that supports, you know, this use being able to coexist with the other existing uses, you know, in terms of people walking on the trails. And I would just suggest that's pretty similar to a lot of the other public spaces in Nashua. You know, if you go to Mine Falls Park, for example, you know, several people mentioned that, there's lots of different uses happening there at the same time. You've got, you know, multiple uses on the trails, whether it's people running, walking, biking. You've got soccer fields there. You know, you've got a number of different activities, and, you know, my sense, having spent quite a bit of time there, is that, you know, that those uses seem to be able to successfully coexist, and I think the same thing could be said for Greeley Park. So I think, you know, there's a degree to which I think we've got a good plan from the city. We've heard a lot of testimony that suggests, you know, as I would expect for other experiences, that these uses can coexist. And again, I feel like it's a relatively low impact use, given the space, in a good way to provide people an alternative way to get out and explore, you know, an open space, and to do so at no cost.
Thank you, Mr. Varley. Anyone else? Ms. Harper, please.
Just quickly, I do echo a lot of the sentiments that you both just said. And I don't play the sport either, but I do have some friends that do play disc golf. And the one thing that they always say about it is that they love it because they're outside in nature, playing the game, and that's really the draw. And I think that sounds wonderful. And again, I do feel like this is fairly low impact, you know, compared to like mowing everything down and putting a softball field in, or a pickleball court, or, I mean, pretty much any other sport out there. And that, you know, potentially down the road, if, you know, there was no more disc golfing, the impact as far as what type of equipment or what's been done to the land itself will be low impacted. You could potentially remove it, and it would be, we would still have woods. So that's all I have.
You know, I appreciate those thoughts. The one thing I did want to comment on was the parking. I appreciate the fact that the city is, at least, they've left themselves some room should there need to be improvements. I wouldn't necessarily be in favor of just adding, you know, unused impervious just for the sake of potentially adding it. I think if folks played sports or had kids that played sports in town, you know that whether it's Shady Lane or Doobie Field, there's
there isn't a ton of parking. Even Gilly Park, you know, whether you had early morning fall soccer or just taking prom pictures, you're basically on-street parking there. So in any case, I understand the concern, but it seems like the city does potentially have options to address that should this thing, you know, turn into something more than what it's anticipated to be. It's kind of my thoughts on it. Mr. Barley, please.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, just since you raised the parking issue, I agree with you, and I agree with the city's approach of not adding the parking first, without sort of, seeing what the usage is. I like the idea of not, again, talking about the impact to the land and so taking more trees down, adding more impervious surface. I agree with the approach of let's not do that to start if it's maybe not necessary. And I will admit, it's been a while since I've spent much time at Roby Park because my kids are older now, but we used to go there all the time, and I've experienced the sort of overflow parking situation in the winter for sledding, and sometimes the other parking lot could get busy. But I think Mr. Bellinger, as you've correctly pointed out, I mean that's true of a lot of public spaces, playing fields in Nashua, and I think it's just something that the people have to sort of try to manage, and we do that in lots of other places, and I think in some ways Roby Park is better situated because there are possibilities to expand parking if that became a need, whereas a lot of the other places you mentioned, Doobie Field, there's no opportunity to expand parking there. So I would also support the approach of taking the sort of wait and see approach on that.
Larry, please.
My concern is, would it make any sense to go to this compromise position that was suggested of just the 9 holes, even the possible expansion, built in or something? That way, I mean, I don't think the city's being benefited by tournaments, for example, especially in that location, if that's the reason for the 18 holes. I haven't gotten the sense that 9 holes wouldn't work, and I kind of wonder if that would be a better way for the board to go.
So, at least in my experience, other outdoor facilities, when you're playing with either, your group of 4 people, I think the time frame, like, it is maybe worth going somewhere else if you're not gonna get the full experience, like 18 holes. I think it's a preference thing typically. I'm not sure there's a concrete yes or no to use
Right,
more or
it's
less.
very, I'm not saying I'm totally, this is an absolute on my behalf. I'm just asking, I'm throwing a question out to the board, essentially. It seems like, there'd be obviously less impact and everything else. A lot of the concerns would be mitigated of the objectors.
I mean, the other thing I would just say, sorry, Mr. Green, but, I mean, the plan we have before us is 18 holes. I don't think that we can just unilaterally as a board say, well, we're going to approve a 9-hole.
No, I understand that.
So I think we'd basically be saying, to the city, go back to the drawing board. But, I think it sounds like this is the case for all of us. None of us are disc golf players, and I don't, purport to sort of know what the standard should be, right? And, the testimony we've heard, from people tonight, you're representing the city, from the public, as well as these people who designed this course, is that, hey, if you want to have a successful course, this is the way you design it with 18 holes. And so I appreciate what you're saying in terms of, if it's half the size, it's, in theory, half the impact. But I guess I don't personally feel like I'm in a position to sort of second guess what the approach is in terms of 18 versus 9.
Yeah, Mr. Green, go ahead.
I'll give you an example that I've seen. So like Hollis has an outdoor volleyball court that's complete with vacuum nets and stops for volleyballs and stuff. And Merrimack, which is closer to me, I have seen one other group go there, and Hollis has a very robust community of people, high schoolers, camps throughout the summer. So a complete package, I see it as a you're more likely to get community engagement because you can get the full gambit of what you expect in the sport. Again, that's just anecdotal of what we're looking at, but again, I would tend to agree with some of the logic. An 18-hole would make more sense for the success of a course. So.
I guess to add on to that, I'm less concerned with how it's marketed. Like I personally it wouldn't affect my day-to-day if they had a tournament there or not. Yeah. But if again, to Mr. Barley's point, we have the plan that is before us. I would have thought had there been some opportunity for compromise, this is not the forum in which to do it, just because, again, it's not up to us to sort of redesign a site plan. So that's not to discredit that idea if it was thought of earlier, but if this has been in the works for several years now and has been vetted by ZBA, not that we're reliant on their decision, it seems like there has been some foresight. So I think trying to throw that in at the 11th hour is not, I appreciate the comment from the public, but I just don't think it's necessarily up for us to adjudicate. So.
No, I understand that part of it. I just was asking the question.
You know, and yeah, I couldn't, as a non-player, I couldn't tell you necessarily what the. Yeah, any further discussion or comments? Mr. Green? Yep.
Quick question for staff. Is there a permitting process for reserving fields and for a tournament type of use? I'm just not familiar with it. This might not be the forum to ask that.
I can't speak to DPW's plans to operate, but it is my understanding, and I would defer to anyone from DPW to speak if I get this wrong. I don't believe that there is any reservation system planned where it's just free and open use to the public. Tournaments may be a completely different scenario, as Mr. Perlman alluded to.
I'm seeing some head nods from Dan Hudson in the back, so that sounds right.
I did have one additional question for staff. Is it commonplace, with respect to the bond waiver, is it commonplace for city projects to not bond themselves? Or?
So the reason we ask site plans to post a bond, typically it's associated with the improvements that they plan to execute, largely in the context of anything that's within the right-of-way. Essentially, that is the city's domain. If a private entity is coming and disturbing the city's domain, we want some sort of fiscal surety to ensure that that can be returned to a usable condition. Now, where the city is essentially beholden unto itself, well, the city is doing a project on city property. The city wouldn't post a bond for its own project on its own property. The money is still within the city, so it wouldn't make sense. It's not like we're asking to issue a bond, which would be an aldermanic action, to pay for the improvement. That's not what this is.
Appreciate the clarification. Sam, thank you. Mr. Barley?
And just one other quick question for staff. The staff report does title this as a site plan amendment.
Yes.
Is that just because we are technically amending the existing site plan for Roby Park for whatever prior improvements have made over time?
That's correct.
Yep, okay, thank you.
Other questions of staff or other comments, discussion items? All right. Seeing none. If any board member is willing to make a motion, but we do have 3 waiver requests related to this application. Obviously, we would need to take action on those items first. Is any member of the board willing to consider a motion regarding the 3 waivers applicable to this application? Mr. Barley, please.
Mr. Chair, as to case A25-0034, site plan amendment for Roby Park, I would like to first make a motion with respect to 3 waiver requests that have been made by the applicant. The first such waiver request is from section 190-160, to not be required to post a bond or escrow. The second waiver request is from 190-279E, regarding submittal requirements to not provide the location of all permanent monuments, property lines, or street lines, and instead allow for a partial site survey. And finally, a waiver from section 190-279EE, again, submittal requirements to not provide survey information for all properties within 1,000 feet of the subject property. And my motion would be to grant all three of those waivers, and it would be based on the rationale provided by the applicant in the waiver request letters submitted on March 20th, 2025, and with findings that strict conformity would pose an unnecessary hardship, and that the specific circumstances or conditions of the land would indicate that these three waivers can be granted while still properly carrying out the spirit and intent of the regulations.
All right, thank you. Motion by Mr. Varley. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Green. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Mr. Varley, would you like to continue?
Absolutely. So, again, with respect to case 825-0034, site plan amendment for Roby Park, I would like to then make a motion to grant final site plan approval. And that motion would be with a finding that the site plan amendment does meet the approval criteria outlined in section 190-146D, and that final approval would include the subsequent conditions identified in the staff report, letters A through L.
Thank you. Motion by Mr. Varley. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Green.
I do have a question.
Any further discussion? Mr. Green, please.
Thank you. The time that the course is open, 6 a.m. to 10 p.m., would subsequent conditions A, minor drafting corrections, be able to correct that? I just want to put that on the record.
I mean, from my perspective, I think yes. I think they're covered. Right, Bob, you agree?
I would agree, and I don't know if Mr. Hudson can nod his head on that one, but
Yeah.
okay. But no, good point. Thank you. Any further discussion? All right, seeing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Moving on in our agenda.
You want to welcome Dan back real quick? You want to welcome Dan back real quick?
No, not really.
He's gone.
Thank you, guys.
Yep, that's good. Yeah, I did notice that.
Thank you.
Just let the room clear out.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you very much. Just quiet down. Folks, I'm sorry, we still have other business items tonight. You're welcome to stay if you'd like to listen, but we are going to continue. All right, Dan Hudson, city engineer, has rejoined us. Next item on the agenda, review of tentative agenda, projects of regional impact. Has any member of the board had an opportunity to review the future applications and is willing to make a motion regarding regional impact? Mr. Hudson, please.
Mr. Chair, I have reviewed the tentative agenda and I find no projects of regional significance.
All right, motion by Mr. Hudson. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Green. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. All right, last item on the agenda under other business.
Sam, how much of a deep dive do you want to go into inclusionary zoning standards tonight?
I don't want to go into a deep dive. I want to provide a couple of updates. We've been working on this throughout this week, I will say. You know, we took some direction the last time we talked about this in regards to incorporating the formula into the document, which we have done. We've had some ongoing conversation about the regulation of household size, which has directly correlated to HUD AMI levels, and then how that relates to how large of a house someone can buy. And we've kind of gone back and forth, and I think we've come full circle, you know, having taken issue with how it was originally written, and now kind of seeing some of the faults in the logic of that original issue that we took, and kind of coming back around to saying, you know, you do get capped at how big of a household you can buy. We wanted to pull away from really caring about how many people were in a given household, but because that is so closely correlated to AMI, we really can't separate those two issues. The problem being, you know, say you're a single person making 150% of AMI for a one-bedroom. Well, you might be making 80% AMI for a 6-bedroom. Now, does that make you qualified to go buy a 6-bedroom, you know, affordable house? Probably not. We want to avoid that essentially the gaming of the system. So with that said, I think we still have some slight amendments to make to the document to kind of shore that up. But you have this newer version before you. You've had the opportunity to look at it. Happy to take any questions as to, you know, the document in its current form before you. But I think it would be fair to say that you can expect a final document, if you will, final draft at the May 15th meeting.
All right. Questions for Sam? No. All righty. Just taking a quick look ahead. Sam, is East Otterson still a go for the 15th, you think, or are they going to need a little bit more time?
Still to be determined.
Okay. All right. And I guess for folks that may not have known, Maynard and Paquette is officially out of business at this point, so that's actually why the 55A Middle-Dunstable case got continued tonight. I don't know what's going on with their records or their representation, but they were sort of a victim of circumstance. So anyway, Maynard and Paquette is no longer in business, so they've been around for a long time. But so I think that was all I had.
I just want to make
Sam.
two other points. We're working with Plan New Hampshire. They're a group that does design charrettes and other services for municipalities. We actually have 2 events coming up with them in May. The 19th is a combination, like a spring workshop. There'll be a panel discussion. It's going to be on the 3rd floor of the Center for the Arts. We'll have representatives from the real estate community. Dan Scanlon is going to be a panelist. We also have someone from GZA Environmental, so geotechnical. Heather Shank, the director of the Office of Planning and Development with the state, will also be speaking. And then Liz Hannum, our economic director, will be participating in the panel as well, talking about planning and developing in uncertain times and how public-private partnerships are so integral to the success of projects now and really in light of current situations. We will also then follow on with a walking tour of some downtown sites, really kind of building on the discussion of the panel, and then finishing at Rambling House for a kind of a social hour. And that is on the 19th. On the 30th and the 31st, we'll be holding a charrette for the Mill Yard. There has been a lot going on in the Mill Yard. There's a lot of planning that is really needs to happen, and I think utilizing Plan New Hampshire's capabilities their technical abilities in bringing in a public process with that charrette and that visioning for the area is really coming at a perfect time as we're writing regulations in the new land use code. We're talking about utilizing, BIDA and, redeveloping city property within the mill yard and working with some of the people who already have projects underway in the mill yard. It's really coming at a great time. So just wanted to plug those two events. And my final item, you may recall voting to give Mr. Bollinger the authority to sign a letter of support for a Housing Champions designation. We did receive that designation a while back, and as a reminder, that allowed us to apply for some competitive grant funds. We sought funding for a per unit award, so basically you can apply for about $10,000 per unit that was marked as affordable at 60% AMI. We submitted for the Monahan Manor project, and we received an award and went through the process with the alderman for first and second reading last week for a total of $828,000 that we will be putting into the housing revolving fund for future projects and housing planning adjacent exercises. So great news, and it was a bit of a scramble to get all that in, and it was worth it.
Excellent. Thank you, Sam. I guess before I ask for a motion to adjourn, I appreciate everybody kind of pushing through tonight. Those ones where there's going to be a lot of public testimony. I know those can go a number of different ways, but I think overall folks did. I think we've seen others that maybe didn't go that smoothly.
So went much better than I thought it would.
So thank you everybody for pulling through. But that was it. So we'll take a motion to adjourn. Anyone?
Mr. Chair.
Ms. Harper, please.
I thought all the testimony was important, by the way. But Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And we are adjourned at 10:22.